out. Resolution number 1. Calling for a public hearing for sale of Schuyler Street, Burmaster. Good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Ordinance approving designation for the same thing. Number 2. Number 3, placement on honorary street sign for Father Joe, which was already done. This is follow-up paperwork. Everybody agree? Good?
Yeah, just as long as we're all full sponsor. Okay.
Okay, full sponsor. Number 4, proclamation honoring the life of Alfred L. LaSalle. Full council?
Yes.
All right. Number 5, Commissioner of Deeds for John Garfield, 1000 State Street. Dennis Bova, Commissioner of Deeds, number 6. Authorize the sale of wine and beer to Munson and Woodland Farm Brewery for July 29th, Sunday.
Just make sure that's full.
Full council? All right. Main Street grant for Midtown Utica Community Center. Is this the full council again?
Yes.
All right, memorandum number 9, property, sale of property sold at public auction. No issues? Bob? Good?
Yep, good.
All right. Ordinance waiving the residency requirement for a position of junior engineer. You got the follow-up information on number 11. Anybody have any issues with this? Okay.
I take it Mr. Mahoney's not here to address this for us?
He's not, he was unavailable. I can answer some of the questions, if any that you have. And obviously I can text Mike, but he was not gonna be available to take this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
But
Just was wondering. Thank you.
All right.
Those are ordinances, though, so we gotta make sure either we
Correct.
get full support or they get no.
Correct.
So, I mean, that would be nice to know
Well,
before we move
can't take
forward.
a straw poll, so.
If you have questions, I can answer them.
If
This has been
anyone
sitting out there.
objects to those, I would so if anyone objects to those, I would recommend before making the motion to commit so that we can process them.
Right.
If no one is objecting to those, just take the vote. That's
And-
how to deal with that without a straw poll.
Right.
If you
Right.
wanna vote no on an ordinance, and you don't wanna see it die, make a motion to commit rather than bringing it to a vote, okay?
And,
we don't
and
have
Mike,
any motions to
and Mike
commit.
did advise me he could be at another meeting, he just couldn't be at this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
So we're not making a motion to commit, we're good with this, right?
Well,
I don't hear anybody
You gotta
saying
wait till you
you
it.
can't take a straw poll, you can
Okay.
discuss it, it's the cause.
They vote against it.
All right, the next piece is the memorandum for April 27, 2023 for alarm systems. I guess we're increasing the charges. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, we should.
Okay. Any issues with this? All right,
I'd like to see that go into committee.
All right.
I'm not ready to,
we'll put it in committee.
that's an ordinance, correct? Correct.
Perfect.
So number 12, that's gonna be in the committee. All right. Is Chief gonna be in it all? I don't think so, right?
I believe he will be our,
Okay.
regular meeting.
All right, public hearing for Lincoln Ave, 1243, 1245. Number 13 with follow-on legislation. On number 14. Rob, you're still good with those?
I'm good with both of those.
Okay. Amendment to schedule one-way streets, Councilmember Aiello. Schuyler A, one-way streets be amended as follows. Any issues?
No.
Okay. Number 16, amendment to schedule yield signs for the following area. All right. That proper signage be erected and removed when necessary. Councilman Aiello, remember Aiello, any issues, anybody? Okay. Councilmember Aiello, intersections where stop required. Whitesboro Street and Seneca Street, four-way stop sign at each intersection. No issues? Okay.
The only thing that I'm gonna be a little picky on is if you say, it can't just be a cross out. It's gotta be removal of Columbia Street
Street, north side of Columbia Street, and then, I mean, if you could, just say that, so that we know that they were already in there, and now they're doing,
So you're gonna amend it on the floor?
yeah,
I-
please.
I don't understand. I don't understand your.
So, is Columbia Street and Whitesboro Street,
Which,
north side
which,
of Columbia,
which,
are they?
which one are you looking at?
If you're looking at number 16. So we went through this big ordeal when it came to the zoning ordinance, that we had to cross out, we had to make sure we were very specific. It says, be it ordained, scheduled yield signs be amended as follows, and there's a strikeout. So, remove Columbia Street and Whitesboro Street, north side of Columbia Street.
And adding that.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, that's, no, that's clear, that's clear.
Oh, this is clear now, because when I went to go put those pieces of legislation for the planning board and the zoning board, it wasn't clear. I mean, I'm not trying to break chops, I just wanna make sure that we're clear on the legislation, that the strikeout means that you're removing it.
For this piece of legislation, the strikeout does mean that, and what is underneath it is what is being replaced.
16's good, 17's good. 18, intersections where stop required, again. Whitesboro Street, Broadway, northeast, south, west corners of Whitesboro Street, Broadway, and Whitesboro Street, southeast corner of Broadway. Okay, 19. Any issues? Intersections where stops required? All right, Whitesboro Street, Auditorium Drive, northeast, southwest corners of Whitesboro Street. Speed limits. Maximum speed 25 miles per hour on Whitesboro Street from Seneca Street to Potter Ave. What is it now?
It should be 20.
What is it now? What's the speed limit now?
City speed limit is 30 miles an
Yeah,
hour.
that's,
Oh, so we're just making it down 5.
Right.
Okay.
why?
Slow down the traffic for the Nexus Center, people come from the parking lot to and from.
Is 25 good, or would you rather go down to 15?
The recommendation from DOT as well is the auditorium, they want to see it down to 25, so.
Well, the DOT's in a little bit of limbo on their recommendation right now. Just
Chief,
kidding.
can I
Thank
ask
you.
something?
Sure.
So is this related to the fact that fairly recently the state of New York passed new enabling legislation which allows us to reduce any, that we no longer have to do the default of 30, right? So the state law was your default is 30 unless you can specifically justify it.
Exactly.
Now the default is 25
Yes.
without requiring a specific justification, correct?
From the state.
From the
or
state.
Permission from the state, absolutely.
Right, so the
yeah.
state passed a law that allows us to reduce the speed limit to 25 in places where we deem necessary.
Exactly, so it started a few years back when Schenectady tried to do it for several of their streets.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, all right, thank
very
you.
astute, very good.
Thank you.
So,
We
Chief,
actually, we just passed a schedule for the city of Utica, it's either 15 or 20.
So-
I mean, so,
You want it slower, Chief?
Chief,
I mean, it would be nice.
I would say go with the recommendation, if it needs to be slower.
Well, chief, now this is the first 25 mile an hour per hour piece of legislation that we're putting in, we just went down to 15 and then 20. So, I mean, if we put it in a section, it would be nice if they were all the same.
But the reason for that, it seems to me, is because of
It
this
doesn't
enabling
matter. Our city
legislation.
ordinance says different than what the state recommended,
Mhm.
and we've had that for a very long time.
Mhm.
And we just amended a ton of ordinances, so now we're gonna have 120, or whatever, 25 mile an hour zone, when the rest of them are 15 and 30, or the regular.
I think there's some other 25s, including along the Oneida Street by
Yeah.
the playground
Well,
there.
those are all
Yeah.
state, I mean, whatever, I'm not arguing.
no, I just wanna make something clear. When a while back, we changed all the speed limits in front of the schools, okay? And it was explained to me that the city speed limit was 30, and we had to be uniformed. And just like what Celeste says now, is that because something changed? But I thought we
School
could have
zone
to be, school zone is
It's always been
different, but
50.
everything had to be 30.
Right,
This is going to 25 now, why?
exactly.
I don't have a problem with it, I just wanna understand why they're doing that. When before, we had to be 30 all over the place unless,
So we met with the city engineer, the Mohawk Valley Garden Association, as well as DOT, and the concern was, a lot of people are using Whitesboro Street as a bypass to get
right,
around the traffic
I don't
lights.
have no
Going down
problem.
Aristide Street, so what they wanted to do is, especially now with the Nexus Center open up, is slow that traffic down.
And it's a
to
good
make sure
idea.
that, people are going in to and from, that crosswalk, by the Nexus, they're not getting by car.
Jill,
Right, I was just under the
I don't-
impression,
I just wanna be clear, so the city speed limit is 30. There are sections of the city where it's 15, it's 20, it's 25. So as long as the common council passes, an ordinance dictating a different speed limit That is the designated speed limit for that area, the sign to be posted. If there's no signs posted, the speed limit
It's 30.
is 30.
Okay, I'm just curious, because when we did it with the school, I was under the impression that everything had to be 30 unless it was a school zone, and then we changed that even lower.
That was, well, actually, it was a state, change within the state law that allowed municipalities to be able to do that. That was-
So, like recently, because this just happened
I
like
think
2
it was,
years
what,
ago.
a couple years ago, I think it was?
No,
We just
within
did
the
it
last
6 months
year.
ago.
Last year?
I would
We
say.
just changed the entire, listen, Joe, it's not my ordinance, so they can
Alright.
change whatever. they
So-
want.
I mean, I don't have a problem with it, I'm just kind of confused how you could say one day it had to be
Can I
this.
just clarify that
That's
it's,
fine.
it's within the last year that Albany passed enabling legislation allowing municipalities to lower their speed limit to 25 without sort of without it being a school zone or something like that.
That's totally
It is
inaccurate.
quite recent, quite
We-
recent.
we
So
actually
it's
passed
only
it.
25, you can't go to 20?
No, the point is, you can't, you used to have special justification to go to 20, to go to anything below 30. The default, as mandated by the state, was 30 miles an hour unless you had a special reason. And now they're saying the default, unless you have a special reason, is 25.
Joe,
You can
the
go to
state-
25
Alright.
without having something like a school
The
zone.
state
And that was
never-
passed within the last
The
year.
state never superseded general municipal law, which allowed a municipality to change the limits on what they wanted to change it to.
Okay, I'm sorry
That's
I
for
even brought it up, I
clarification.
just,
It had nothing to do with
I
the
know when we
state.
did the school thing, it was a major thing that they had to be 30 miles. Okay, no big deal, yeah, I'm good.
All right, so we're all good now?
Yeah.
All right. All right, 21, resolution approving endorsing Munson, formerly Munson Williams Proctor Arts Institute for an application for New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation Parks Program for visitor improvement and accessible entry to Munson Williams Museum of Art. Is that a full council? All right, let's go to committee of the whole. Anything coming out?
Yeah, I'm gonna, I'll pull out, where is it here? I'll pull out, ordinance, number 1, amending the traffic schedule.
Okay, is this the one, we're gonna rescind those other ones or reconsider them?
Make a motion to reconsider, and then take a motion on the floor.
All right.
What are these other 2 things that we just had there?
I'd like to pull out the E and A transfer, which is ordinance number 5.
I'm gonna actually make a motion to not take that out of committee, because there's several questions that I have in regards to that, and it actually has to do with the body of the council, and I'd rather wait till everybody's here, with legal recommendation from our council, to have that waited to be voted on.
So, can I ask a question? So,
You already had the motion to bring the amending the traffic signal on the floor.
yeah,
You're all
I'm not
set.
talking about that. So what you're saying now, you wanna keep it in there.
The E&A transfer.
Yeah, we have the budget director here now, and,
There's some legal.
okay, but
things.
wait a second.
What's-
My
what's
only,
the
my
legal
only
question?
concern is, the money is already transferred. These projects can go ahead regardless.
Right.
So if we keep it in here for 2 weeks or until next month,
No, the
nothing's
money,
gonna hurt.
the money's not been transferred. It hasn't been
So
transferred.
is it gonna slow these projects down if
Yeah.
it stays in there?
Okay, so here's the thing, and Judge Cameron, the discussion that we had earlier in regards to the transfers. So the council is obligated under their budgetary powers. We've got a $78 million budget, those transfers can go in and out. Anything over that is not, that exceeds the council powers. So now we've made a separate fund for ARPA funding. We weren't involved in the original allocation for ARPA funds. And now I'm asked to be expected to transfer those funds. I don't think that the council is in their obligation, according to the city charter, to transfer any funds. I think that can just be done with the Board of E&A. So there's just some clarification purposes that I would like to have answered before we do another transfer, because we've already done 2, and I'm not comfortable going on.
So just 2 comments to that. So when we've had CDBG funding in the past, anything over $15,000, we've come. Now, to your point though, okay, when you vote on the budget, you do not vote on the entire budget. You vote on the tax rate, okay, and theoretically the sewer rate. The tax rate only affects the general fund. It does not affect CDBG, it does not affect sewer, it does not affect any of the other funds. So I agree with you on that. But there is a clarification in a paragraph that any funds that are moved between funds, it doesn't say just the general fund. Anything that's over $15,000 must come to the
And
council.
that's fine. I just want some clarification purposes.
Can I have the floor?
Yep, you got the,
Just point of clarification, this won't change what you guys are going back and forth on, but we have to amend the lines of the budget by ordinances, and we do pass the actual budget as an ordinance. So we do vote on those lines, in actuality. That's why we have to pass ordinances to amend it, and we adopt the council's, annual estimate at the end. I just wanted to.
But the annual estimate is the general fund, the annual estimate.
Right,
is
no,
not
that's what I'm saying. It doesn't change the discussion,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we aren't only voting on the tax rate. There's people
That's
listening to
right,
YouTube.
exactly.
I just wanted to make sure that was
And
clear.
that's the only thing that I
Okay.
want clarification of, is if we vote on these, it's not held on the council. And that's just a discussion they had earlier, and for me, I just want clarification purposes on that, that's all.
So is that something that the
I mean-
council is considering voting on
I
tonight?
would rather have law answer that before I vote on anything else.
Judge?
I requested from the city engineer's office a list of the projects. And the only thing I was concerned about is not what was done, because obviously everything that was done was for the betterment of the city of Utica, especially with regard to its recreational areas, all those improvements that could not be done with tax dollars. And I believe that all of those projects were funded by other than tax dollars, am I correct? Most of them?
Through ARPA.
Yeah, it's our
I
budget.
mean, they didn't come out of the city budget.
No, no.
No, if they didn't come out of the city budget, then my question that arose after that was, when did the common council approve the disbursements of those funds that came to the city of Utica for these projects? Now, Mr. Giorgio and I had a discussion of that earlier, and she says that it is contained, although done quite a long time ago, in the master plan. Is that what you said?
Oh, the city budget.
Pardon me? Mr. Giorgio?
Yes, the actual projects are all included in the master plan, which was
And
approved.
you find that all of these improvements, the common council did approve when they approved that document?
Yes,
So that they didn't give up their powers of legislative powers, and they already did it in a previous document that's long since passed. Is that what your position is?
correct.
And that the transfer actually is, and that, we put things in initials. What is ARPA?
That's the ARPA funding, that's the,
American
There's
Rescue
a-
Plan.
American Rescue Plan Act.
This is all of the American Rescue Plan money that was applied to all of these projects as set forth in this transfer. And that that money is sitting there in these numbered accounts. Am I correct, Budget Director?
Well, they will be once they're approved. That money is being transferred from those other accounts. So where you see from, that's where the allocation is, right? So it's not in the to yet, it's in the from.
Well, what I was asking for and what I got was, from the engine department, was a list of all of the improvements. The city engineer isn't here tonight, and what I wanted to do is I wanted to have the council pass an ordinance setting forth all of these improvements as being approved by the common council, and setting forth some breakdown of the relative costs and total that was being paid out of this American Rescue Plan fund, so that the public would know later on, or should know now, when you use the word of very bandied around transparency. How did you do all this? And what was the involvement of the Common Council of the City of Utica? A councilman cannot spend one nickel of city money or federal money. I mean, it's nice to say that Councilman Beatrice had some sort of allocation that worked out between the mayor and him, and the dog park was something that he wanted, and he got it, and I think Ms. Aiello got something, and I don't know about the rest of you.
Well, there was
But the truth,
there
wait.
was an allotment of one
Pardon me?
point 2 million. There was an allotment of 1.2 million, 200,000 to each individual council person except for the at-larges. So I just want to clarify, it wasn't to Councilman Beatrice or Councilperson Aiello, it was to each individual council district.
That's in an ordinance?
No, that was the
Well,
distribution.
I'm talking about an ordinance.
Right, I know what you're talking about.
I said, let me say, Charlie Brown, some time ago, ad nauseum, for about the 10th time since I've been sitting here, wrote another memo about the division of executive and legislative powers.
Judge, I believe there's a different question. I believe the question is whether or not the council has to approve ENA's transfer in this instance.
Of
Right,
ARPA
and
funds.
he's actually getting to the point of.
Yeah, he's actually
all-
explaining that.
Well, I'm getting to that. I think that if the common council,
Yeah, yeah.
if the common council has approved something in the past, and the money is identified as non-taxable money, which I think it is, because it's American Rescue Plan money, I just don't recall ever, let me put it this way, the city charter is clear. You can't build a building in Utica without the common council approving the building of the Utica, the building. You can't do, if you look under the park sections of the city charter, even water connections, park improvements, all of them are all in the charter. They all come under the 3.00 section of the charter, common council powers. So my question was, I wanted to make sure that the executive and the executive, the legislative and executive branch were on the same page for history purposes. I don't want some future mayor or some future councilman saying, well, that's the way they did it. Well, that isn't the way it happens. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to take all of this and put it in some legislation, identify the source of the money, and let the taxpayer know that the Common Council of the City of Utica was part of all of that improvement. It didn't just come from the executive, and I think that that's what I was getting at. So I want to make it very clear that I was not trying to portray the Common Council as me, the representative, of being an obstructionist to all that was done, because all that was done was done. I walked out one day and I saw this slide. I had no idea where it came from. I didn't even know it was contemplated. You couldn't put a ski tow up at the parkway without the Common Council approving the ski tow. I don't remember anything about a slide. I don't remember anything about a pavilion. And so I'm wondering where those things came from. I also, and I don't want to be too long about this, have to also explain to the public who are watching this, that during that COVID period and what followed thereafter, there was a tremendous amount of funds coming from the federal government to local governments, almost like a public works project that occurred in the 30s to get us out of a depression. And it was all designed to spend money in the community on things that would improve the community. If you look behind Proctor, the pool at Buckley Pool, that whole surface back there, they had these big tower lights there. That's obviously an improvement. I don't think anything that's been done has done anything but enhance the city of Utica. Now, if the Corporation Counsel's office at the city of Utica thinks that this method is in keeping with the division of powers of the council and the executive branch, because the Crown Council has previously endorsed these projects in a master plan, I have no problem with that. So long, but I wanted it, when I asked for that list, they gave me a list, but they didn't tell me or break it down in such a way that how the allocation went. Now I have to believe that the allocation, maybe the reason they didn't do that, is set forth in this document that's before the council tonight that was placed in committee that they wish to have approved. Am I correct about that?
Well, first of all, you asked the engineering department, you didn't ask me.
Pardon me?
You asked the engineering department, you didn't ask me.
Well,
Okay,
I'm asking you because
But let me just finish,
I'm not-
Judge, let me just finish.
I don't see where the
Every
common council.
Every time I come down here, all through the budget process, I've always supplied the list of projects and the allocations.
Yeah, but these didn't come out of the budget.
But I
These
know.
have nothing to do with the budget.
It-
They really
it
don't.
does. Yeah, it does.
Heather, so
They don't
this-
have anything to do with the
Yeah.
budget.
Yeah.
And I, see, that's the argument I will not accept. This
Okay.
is not a budget transfer in the
It's
in the
what-
normal
You asked
sense
for
of the
what
word.
the money was spent on.
So the problem that we have is that the council's obligated through their budget process,
Mm-hmm.
through a $78 million budget, okay? These are on top of the fact of a budget that we have not passed.
I agree.
Right, so the problem that I have is, listen, if you look in the charter, it says, if the council wants to do a transfer through anything through the Board of E&A, that's through their budgetary powers. So if I had this inside our city budget and said, I can have the allocation to transfer ARPA funds. If I approved that in the budget, that would be fine. I don't have these in my budgetary powers. So my point is that even the two other ordinances that we've done, and I'm sorry, I apologize that it just got to me on this one.
Mhm.
We probably shouldn't be approving these things because they're not in our budgetary powers, nor on the budget that we actually approved. Right, no, I'm serious, like, I don't wanna be part of a project that I had no initiation in, or approve the initial project on. I'm actually helping the mayor here
You are.
at the end of the day, because guess what? If I approved, let's say, brownfield remediation, or city COVID healthcare, or legal accounting fees, this council's responsible for all that through this budget transfer now. Because now we're approving things through different funds that we have no say on. Or never had the initial process on. And according to the charter, and I asked that was printed out, we are now obligated through these budgetary transfers through this process now. And I can't sit here and put my name on something that I was never initially involved on the original process to begin with. And I think that was the mayor's initial goal, was to have these projects done himself, because the council never approved any of these projects. The only reason why we're involved now is through a budget transfer, because it's over $15,000. I don't wanna be involved in this at all. And I think that that's only fair, that if he wants to allocate the money, he's responsible for that fiduciary responsibility from the start of these projects to the finish of these projects. And I will stick up for the first ward, second ward, third ward, the rest of this council in stating, we should not be responsible in handling any of these funds. Because it's not our responsibility, because this was never passed through the original estimate and apportionment of that
But just
$78
remember,
million.
councilperson, that will extend to CDBG, moving millions of dollars.
But we never had the original allocation. That was involved in our budget process.
It was a supplemental appropriation.
It's still
But,
in our
but,
budget.
and that would be fine. I mean, if I
Like
shouldn't say it's fine, it's
healthcare-
based on what
So,
Mr. George.
may I request the floor?
Sure, but like
Yeah.
I said, healthcare and everything else was involved in our budget, which
Yes.
we don't have a say on. But we're still taking the responsibility of that because it was passed in our budget, because it's now through the general fund. This is not through our general fund. I'm asking you guys to take us out of this process, because it's not fair to us that we weren't involved in the original process.
All right, we're beating this up. Michael, you gotta save Ron.
Yes. So, Councilperson Testa did call me a couple hours ago, and we read through the place in the charter
Mhm.
where it's ordained that, you know, if a transfer or a group of transfers ends up above 15,000, it has to go to council, et cetera. That is part of the annual estimate portion of the charter. Before we make any assumptions that would also extend to CDBG, because those things are before us when we approve the budget, It does make sense actually to assess this. This is a very specific case. I think we should go through it with you, the actual council attorney, and possibly Bill Borrell, to just look at it to see if this is a point here. Over the past 8 years, we've never, as a council, under my direction as council president, dealt with ARPA money like this. You know, a group of monies that was truly under federal law, distributed by the administration and divided up by the Board of E&A. So it's a valid question. So if we want to leave it in committee and go over it with Corporation Counsel, the only thing I would state is, if we do get a memo saying that we should do this, and there's legal backing for it, and our council attorney does agree with that, at the next meeting, we should act on
They
this.
probably still won't vote for it.
Well, I'd
That's
like to
fine, that's fine.
I think
But
so.
that's what I'd like to state, yeah.
Can I ask
Mr. President,
something?
just a second. You have to understand, when the federal government and the state government does something, and the way they word things, they do not have any knowledge of the way legislatures, town boards, county government, city governments work, and what their rules and regulations are in this entire country. They do everything on a mass basis. But when you get to the nitty-gritty of the locale follows its rules. It is not bound by a general statement, because the federal government cannot, in its legislation, designate things that pertains to everything. If you look at the county, the way the county does things, you look at their charter, and I looked at it, you looked at their rules of how they proceed, they are completely different than yours. If you look at the county law, it's completely different than yours. You even look at town law, it's completely different than yours. So don't point to the county the way they do things, because they're under a different statute, county law, and we're under the second-class cities law, which is another different statute. So what I'm saying to you that I would have liked for the Common Council to have presented to them a ordinance where they approved all these projects and referred to that same account, and even if you wanted to do a grand total, I had no objection to that. I not only was saying that because, as I talked to Councilman Friend the other day, I said, I believe, and it's my duty here, just like Mr. Giorgio, it's my duty to protect the integrity of the Common Council of the City of Utica as a legislative body. And for me to sit here and be silent and not make any objection is a violation of my duty and my legal ethics and responsibility to you. Now, people don't have to agree with me, and I don't always say I'm always right. But I'm just saying to you, and again, if they had just done it the way I wanted to do it, I think every councilman's gonna vote for it. Because all they're saying is we're not against it, it's a different format, and we should have been in a format. If the mayor gets $10 million, he can't just go out and spend it just any way he wants to and decide he wants to build some sort of Hannah Park. We went through that period, and I was the attorney when we went through all that period. I had the mayor putting that tower on Genesee Street. He had a truck there, and he had a shovel in the ground digging a hole for the tower, and I went to court and stopped him because he didn't have the council approval or the Board of Urban Renewal to do that. And the court said, take the shovel out. The plan said it was over here. That's where they had to go, and that's where it ended up. I did that 14 times with him.
Well,
Now,
Judge, could
All
I?
right.
I'm saying to you,
We gotta move on. We got one more. The third ward wants to
saying
talk.
you, I want to put this question to rest.
Yes.
The money's there, spend it, and do it as a joint body between the executive and the legislature. That's all I'm asking. It's very simple to do, and I don't see why there should be any resistance to this.
All right, third ward.
Is there any resistance to it? I don't think so.
All right, third ward's got the floor now, Judge.
Pardon me?
Third ward's got the floor, Judge.
Third ward has the floor. Mark gave the floor to the third ward.
Go ahead.
All right.
So I just wanted to ask the budget director what difference it makes to you in terms of moving the city forward and moving projects forward, as whether we pass this tonight or don't.
They come to a halt.
Okay, so can you explain that process just a little bit? What, like, yeah, they come to a halt because the administration's view is that we do have to authorize all transfers
I
over
don't know what the
15,000.
administration's view is. I
Right.
mean, Mr. Giorgio's here based on the the council's office.
Right.
We have always, at least during my tenure, actually my two tenures since 2009, okay, or 2003, anything over $15,000, whether it was grant money, whether it was sewer fund money, came here, because there is a paragraph that says, any transfer, doesn't say general fund, any transfer. I get Councilwoman's Tessa's point,
Right.
I do.
Yeah, I do too.
That has not been the historical background of what
Okay.
we've done.
Okay, so now I have a question, Judge Garamone.
Yes.
So hypothetically, if at some point in the future, somebody, as you said, Charlie Brown, or somebody said, yep, Councilmember Colosimo Testa was absolutely right, we never should have been voting on this stuff to begin with, will there have been any sort of harm done by us voting on it tonight anyway?
Could there have been?
What's the harm?
You've got, actually, if you read, I'm sorry, if you give me 1 second. If you read section 7.002, limitation upon debts liability of council members, I mean, it specifically states very clear that the council should not exceed their authority other than the estimate that they pass in
What
March.
are the consequences of hypothetically
I mean, you
exceeding
could
that
be held
authority?
responsible as a council person if these projects are not paid as an individual member. So, I mean, you need to make yourself clear with the charter, and that's why it was brought up at our last meeting, and I totally forgot about it. And it just got brought up again when I read the legislation that I was supposed to vote on today. It's very specific. I'm not saying that it'll happen today. I'm not saying that it'll happen tomorrow, but it could happen in the future. And I'm not gonna be responsible of a piece of ordinance that I pass when it could have just been done by the administration by themselves through the Board of E&A, especially when the council's authority is not through the $78 million that they already passed. This exceeds that. That's all I'm saying.
So basically, the project's not gonna stop.
Has a council person on it, right? The Board of E&A has
Yeah,
a
but
council
not
and
as
the
the-
council president.
Not as the authority of a council member.
We're Board of E&A.
They are the authority through a state authorized board, which makes that very different than being a council person. They're there as a liaison. They're not there as an authoritative figure of the entire council. So the only thing that I'm asking is to make sure that if we vote on this, how the council's involved in this process, knowing that we never approved any of the projects. And if the Board of E&A can approve that without the council's approval, then show me that with the charter or without the charter.
So I am trying to look that up, I can only do so much, so I'll do that
So-
between the breaks. But the only thing I will say is that the council did approve all of those projects, they're in the master plan.
Listen, the master plan,
But I'm just saying, they
So the
approved
council-
they approved the
so the
projects
council,
in the master
so here's the problem when we talk about the master
parks-
plan.
Nobody came.
Right, so there are 5 council members that are not part of this council that approved the master plan for the city of Utica, whether it comes under David Farrow's administration or under Brian Thomas through that Parks and Recreation master plan. That does not supersede an authority of an individual council. We start as a new council every year, right? So say a master plan was done prior to that. This council does not have the authority through the rest of the master plans that were passed prior to us. We're not ordained or have that authority to be held responsible for the rest of those councils that passed that master plan. So that's all I'm saying, is that you're asking us.
But I believe the question, as Judge was trying to explain, is that there's 2 competing components of that. Is that the executive branch has the authority to do certain projects and do that, and you're questioning whether or not.
Oh, no, they did. So for example, brownfield remediation, city COVID healthcare and protection, reimbursement for hiring, legal and accounting fees, skate park. They did those under their own authority. The council never approved that, ever, in their authority under ARPA funding. So now my question is that you're asking me to transfer all those accounts to ARPA, Proctor Park Dog Park, Proctor Park Pavilion, Splash Pad, so on and so forth. This is an ordinance prior to that we might have to rescind as well. Now you're asking me, under my authority, to transfer those funds, under those certain funds, into a new account that we never passed under our $78 million authority under our fiscal year. So I've already passed 2 ordinances, yes, I'm well aware of that. I am finding for my mistake that I should have never approved those 2 ordinances for the simple fact that that's not in my fiscal responsibility. That exceeds the $78 million that we passed as a council
Can
on
the
the day
third
that we
ward
passed
speak?
the budget.
Yeah, we gotta
I would
wrap
like-
this up. Third Ward, and then Mike, and that's it.
Okay.
You know, we put it back in committee, we're gonna decide what we're doing, all right?
Wait, I got one thing quick though.
Hey, no,
No,
third's got
Third
it.
ward.
I got a simple question.
You
Okay,
can go
on,
next.
you go on.
So one of the ways of looking at this is that we don't, the mayor does not need our authority in order to take a supplemental appropriation and assign it a budget account and move it into the budget. He doesn't, and which is why I say CDBG, all of those get, it's, you know, all those supplemental appropriations get moved into the budget under his own authority. But once they're in the budget, then then he needs the council's authority to move it around. Isn't that one way of looking at this?
Those are,
This
first of all,
is a rule of law, and I'm not gonna.
Okay.
opine on
They,
the rule
they
of
are
law.
not supplemental appropriations, they are actual appropriations. So the council, through their budget, did not ever pass in their accounts AC 57522
Point of order.
dash 471. We never passed it in our budget. This now exceeds our responsibility as a council. That's
Council at
all I'm
large.
trying to say.
Point of order.
Let me tell you that.
She had the floor, and then I had the floor.
Sorry,
I would like
I
to,
apologize.
I would like the chair to drive the meeting.
Well,
It's-
yeah,
it's
I-
Councilman
I think we
Williamson.
just need to move
Are you
this
the
thing
chairman?
going. We're
Right,
beating it up too much, so
I
we
had
gotta
the
make a
floor after
decision.
Councilperson Friend.
Yes, we gotta make a
Okay.
decision, put it in committee,
All
what
right.
we're doing,
All
okay?
right.
It's just we're beating this up too much.
Yeah, I got a question, real quick.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Wait, real quick. Why, after the last meeting, when we talked about it, we put it in committee, and we were told that the money's transferred there, it's not gonna hold the projects up? Why is it gonna hold the projects up now?
We've been a month. So now you're gonna wait another month, so now you got a 2-month hold on slides you need to order, on ordering and doing. It will, but if you choose,
I thought the money was there though.
the money's there, it's about ordering things. It's about getting things into the ground.
So now you're transferring funds of stuff that you don't even know what you're ordering.
Okay.
All right, so, third, you done?
I'm good, thank you, Mr. Williams.
All right. The only thing I wanted to state is the council, through, this had to be 20 years ago, added this to the city code years ago that the council would have to approve a transfer if the transfer accounted up to, after multiple transfers, $15,000. I believe what's been presented to us is a corner case that no one thought of in that actual legislation. Because if the council had never passed what that $15,000 allotment in that actual piece of the city code, this entire conversation would never be happening, because the Board of E&A would actually be the control board as set up by the charter in its entirety, okay? So I'm gonna go back to what I originally said. I do believe this corner case needs to be assessed by Corporation Council, because if it is something that was not thought of back then, and this truly is an exception to what's in there, then we'll have to take it up at that point.
Okay,
All right,
so
thank you.
we're all gonna put this back in committee, we're not voting on it, right?
I would ask, just until we get clarification.
Okay?
Because you might not even need the council to approve any of these transfers.
Right.
Yep.
So I would appreciate that.
Judge, 1 minute.
1 second. When we did the police, when we did the fire, when we do all those things as a body, executive and the legislative, and the money came from someplace else, it came from the federal government, we did it according to the law, we sent it to the E&A, they approved it, and we got those jobs. We did that properly. Everybody in the city of Utica knew what you were doing, and if they wanted to criticize you for spending the money or something, but at least they knew you did this thing properly. And we did get the policemen, we did get the firemen, and we followed the pattern of the law. And it's true, you spend more than a certain amount of money, you have to get approval anyway. So my suggestion, to end this, just give us an ordinance setting forth this and these projects, and ask us to approve them, and the allocation of the money, and I'm sure you will get probably a 9-0 vote, And that will put to rest this argument that we don't have to take on, and will be in the minds. We have two people here, sitting here tonight. One of them's gonna be mayor. And there are councilmen that are gonna return. And we should not have to revisit this argument again.
Oh.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I know.
We gotta, this is it, no more.
Okay, it's not on this. First of all, I'd like to suggest that we at least be open to having a special meeting in order to pass this sooner rather than later, so that we don't continue to hold up the way that the budget director suggests we will be.
We don't need to, though. We don't need to, we're not holding it up, because it has nothing to do with us.
Well, but.
That's what they're gonna find out in the next couple of days when
Okay.
they have their meetings.
So let me restate. If they find out that they do need us, can we not wait a full month, but perhaps have a very quick special meeting if they decide that they do need us? And then the next thing is that I would also like to pull out of committee proposed ordinance number 3, the bond ordinance dated June 7th, 2023.
I gotta be honest with you, I'm not gonna be in favor of this because a couple of things. If now we have the authority to transfer funds in and out of an account through the Board of E&A and cancel those funds because we don't want it to go to a certain project, those funds could actually be used for the bond ordinance. So until we figure out our authority as a legislative body.
No, I don't think.
say we
Hold on
don't-
a second.
Say we don't
Hold
approve
on.
those transfer funds.
Councilman at large, point of order,
Point of order.
okay? Ordinance number 3. Is that the IT spend?
Yes.
Okay. Frank Matullo was originally going to be here. Heather Mowat is conferenced with Frank Matullo, and she is here to represent the contents of that actual bond ordinance. So before we discuss anything, I would like to hear the budget director's rationale, explanation from Frank Matullo, and why we need this equipment for City Hall, so that the council can actually discuss the bond ordinance and understand why it was proposed in the first place. So can you please give
Yeah, so I-
the budget director the floor, Councilman Williamson?
You got it, Budget Director.
Thank you.
1 minute.
It'll be quick. So I handed out a narrative from Frank Matullo. As was requested at your last meeting, was what are we buying? I didn't have an answer for you because I didn't put forth the legislation, the controller's office did. And so I got you the answer to that, and I also asked him to put some narrative. New firewalls, new core routers, new network switches, and the implementation of all above. This is to protect the city. We have new telephone systems going in. We have a variety of new computers going in. We have a variety of storage issues. All of this protects us. It's estimated to be up to $250,000. And so that was the request. You wanted a list of what was to be purchased, and I asked him to put something else in writing. It's pretty clear here what it is. I can answer any questions.
So we're all in agreement, he's pulling this out, number 3?
Yes,
All right, let's pull it out. Who's gonna pull it out?
I will.
Okay.
The third
All right,
board.
any other one? Any other save rounds? Okay, make a motion to adjourn from caucus.
Okay, we'll be back in 10 minutes.
Okay.
You're up.
2023. I'm going to call this meeting of the Common Council to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Aiello, Burmester, Friend, Urban, Beatrice, Williamson, Colastimo Testa, DeBrango, Galimi, present.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for the deceased members of the council.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First order of business this evening, as usual, will be the minutes from the previous meeting. The previous meeting was actually on Monday, so we will be making a motion to accept the minutes from Monday's meeting and the previous council meeting before that.
I'd like to make a joint motion, Mr. President, to waive the reading of both sets of minutes.
Any seconds on that? Thank you. Any opposed? Okay, the minutes have been dispensed. The minutes were posted on Ecode 360 for both of those meetings. They are posted for the public to view, as well as anyone else that does work in City Hall. We have no public hearing. I'd like to just double check that. Do we have any properties or ordinances we're conducting a hearing on? Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. Public comment period is the next order of business. What do we do with that sheet there? Here we are. The first speaker this evening is Chris McNichol. Please come forward. Thank you. The Common Council has provided you a copy of section 3244, public comment period rule. Are you in agreement with this?
Yes, I am.
Please state your name and you may begin.
Yep, my name is Chris McNichol. I am 33 years old, live in the First Ward as a renter, work at the Utica Public Library, kind of on the border between the First and Fifth Ward. If you ask any of the council people, oftentimes I'll hear, well, if you need something, you're in the other ward. If you don't, I'm in your ward, as a joke, and I've always treated it as such. I've come here today for a couple topics, and the first one I'm going to be very brief on because I know no matter what I say about what you're voting on today to do with Genesee Street, I don't think what I have to say is going to change anyone's vote in the room. But I come as a resident and somebody who came back to the city after some tough times in my life. I've loved living back here. I've loved Utica since I was young. I spent more time there than in my hometown. And what I do for work now is something I'm really passionate about at the library. I see people from every walk of life in our building. People on their worst days, people on their best days. I'm our circulation supervisor there, and I don't speak on behalf of our public library when I come here, but as an individual who loves what I do, loves the people I meet in the city. It's been really disheartening to me to see the level of vitriol when I've attended Common Council meetings lately, between council members and between folks in attendance as well, over a project that, to me, benefited some, had its drawbacks for others, was a trial run, and something I hope, no matter what the vote is tonight, please don't give up on that dream. I say that to everybody here on the council, not just folks who worked on the project and on the trial run, but in general, anyone voting. Just don't give up on us, the people who don't drive everywhere in Utica, but still like to walk, still like to frequent many of the businesses that have come up and spoken as well. I have a great respect for anyone that's been in business here 30, 40 years in the city. I think there's a lot of pride that comes with that, and I think sometimes that pride can obstruct the forest through the trees. I heard a lot of, I watched the entire special meeting on Monday, heard a lot of passionate feelings given, fears, some of them legitimate, maybe, some of them not, we don't know yet. We probably won't know if Genesee Street's changed back to 4 lanes. I've also seen data from other cities that folks have provided where trials like this have been, had their hiccups along the way, but eventually worked and eventually shown an increase in safety long term for those cities. I pray that we keep leading the city not in fear, not in hurt ego, but in hope that we can do better, and in data as well. I kind of on the same topic of leading with hope and getting things done, I wanted to address the council as well as a member of the Utica Public Library to follow up on something I don't know if everybody here has seen our social media announcement about or our press release about, but this coming fall we'll be hosting the first ever haunted house event in our library building. So I wanted to end on a positive note here because I didn't want to go in too hard on you. This event is going to be a free to access event for anyone of any age. It's going to be limited attendance and reservation first, so I do want to get the message out there early. And it's something that I felt was kind of a niche that was left as a void in the city after KO left us for Rome. This haunted house is going to be geared at teens and up, the kind of ages in the city that really have nothing to do once sports start to draw down in the city. We want to get those types of folks out involved in something fun in the library, give them some sort of purpose to their lives, especially as somebody who's been into haunted houses, horror, things like that for a while. It's a niche interest for people. People get labeled weird when they're in their youth because they love these certain things. And I want to prop that crowd up and give them something to look forward to during the year. That's about all I have to say. I just want to add as well that I know people were concerned that they didn't get to see things going on with Complete Streets along the way. Some business owners didn't get to see things, and the way it was handled upset some people, didn't upset others. I want to thank the council for having public comment at both special meetings when that, as I understand it, was not necessarily a requirement, when they could have passed on that. I appreciate that. I wasn't able to attend either of those due to time restraints on my part. So this is my first time speaking at public comment. But I also want to add that Complete Streets has been something the state introduced circa 2011-ish, I think. And anyone frustrated that they didn't have their say in this, there were at least 10 years where these things were out in the open, you could have read up on them. And I sat here in those years and not many things happened. I saw things disappear from Utica before I saw them start to come to Utica. This gave me some hope. As I said before, just please don't let that hope and that dream die of a more walkable city, especially in the area where I work and interact with a lot of people who feel the same way but don't have the opportunity to come here and speak. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker this evening is Richard Baus. Please come forward. Thank you. The Common Council provided you a copy of Section 3244 Public Comment Period Rule. Are you in agreement with this? It's posted on the podium. Public Comment Rule.
Yes.
Thank you. Please state your name and you may begin. Thank you.
Richard Laws.
You may begin.
Yes. My name is Richard Laws with the Railway Historical Society here in Utica. Earlier this year, we did a proposal to the city of Utica for streetscape on Schuyler Street. We had the Sigelman's Watchman's Tower. And I'm just coming back here today to give a little more update on how that's moved along. We had to work with National Grid for the power lines up above. National Grid has agreed to do a donation for the work to be done through their Care and Share program and community forgiveness. So that's one part of the puzzle that's going to be very beneficial because we have to remove the tower from on top of its pedestal to bring it down for restoration. We also really firmly secured commitments from a few local vendors for supplying the materials for the restoration. I'm supplying my labor to take and do the restoration on the tower. Streetscape around the corners agreed to give us space over there to do the restoration. The concept of the Schuyler Street Tower project was for a restoration of the curbing and the sidewalk and also ADA compliant along that strip there. And one of the other items that was going to be put there, we were looking for probably a nice raised bed planter with a Christmas tree in the center of that, which would offset everything there. And also we were going to take and add a more of a public information podium along the area right there. During the Boilermaker, the whole area right around that tower wound up being a parking lot. And so a lot of people got to see what the tower was, but they really don't understand what the function of it was, you know, what it became back in the heyday. So it is kind of a West Utica landmark, and it's one that I have taken care of for the past 40 years or so, give or take. We did a restoration on it back in 2006, and as they say, you can only put just so much, you know, caulking on a pig. So it's time for the tower to come on down. But like to get back to the city and see if we can move forward on the streetscape side of this here. Susquehanna Railroad, we're requesting them for closure of Sickenburger Lane. I understand that has to go through the Common Council and all the other people involved in that to make that closure happen. So hopefully this coming, if we can't move it along this fall, you know, we can go for the spring and clean up another piece of the area. The properties alongside the track there also belong to the city, and we might be able to take and help bring that together too. But it is a historical landmark and marks the West Utica area. The Common Council people, Mr. Burmaster, thank you for the help on this here, and hopefully we can move this forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker this evening is Jared Tuff. Common Council's provided you a copy of section 3244 from the common period rules. If you're in agreement with this,
Yes.
please state your name. You may begin.
My name is Jared Laurel Tuff, and it must be a luxury to be able to get up here and just talk about like things like dog parks or the way the roads are. Or that must be a real big luxury. But for me, I can't talk about those things though. I have to talk about what's going on with my race, the gentrification and the displacement that everyone just ignores like it's not happening. I'm really saddened because I grew up in this city, and you know, you wait and you hope things would change. You hope that the older racist people would die out, and then there would get some young new blood in here. But as you can see, that doesn't happen. Hence, Melissa Scorantino, the city clerk, kicking me out of the clerk's office, saying that I don't have rights in there, and saying that she's the sole boss and all that stuff. But please let me finish, because it's still city business. Also, you know, I just want to say that, you know, we're getting a lot of apartment complexes in that you guys have to obviously approve, you know, by the municipal housing. You know, back in the 60s and 70s, we had 100,000 people here, and we didn't have as many apartment complexes, but for the little bit of black people, Nubians, African Americans, whatever you want to call us, there's a lot of apartment complexes popping up in this land, and it takes away from the home ownership, you know, but yet the immigrants can come over here and without a penny to their name, and they're living, not in the Caucasian neighborhoods though, just the black neighborhoods mainly. So, you know, we're just tired of this, and, you know, I don't want to group the people together because I'm a leader of my community, and I don't want to group them together. I want change, and I'm trying to work with this council and everything, and, you know, you did give me a number to call and everything, but when you say they don't come, that's an excuse to me, you know, and then when you bring up things instead of head on saying, what can we do about the gentrification? You know, Vincent says he has an event. Did that event stop the gentrification? So I don't know why I had to attend it as if it was so important. It wasn't, because it didn't stop the gentrification. I still see we're being gentrified and displaced. So I just would like for people not to ignore that and try to think of something to help, you know. I have turned recently from a Democrat to a Republican because I see that the Democratic Party has used my people. They're not doing nothing for us. But yet they say that we want a handout. No one wants a handout. Every time we pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps, here comes other hands involved in destroying what we build, you know? Like I said before, the mayor reaches out to the state, asks for money for gun control for a people that don't control guns. It just seems really weird to me, you know what I mean? They're not making the guns, they're not pumping the guns in the city, but yet he wants money for it, and it doesn't help. You know, I had to go to the Arabic stores and stop them from selling a drug that the police is supposed to stop them from selling. They're still selling it, but at least they know someone from the community doesn't want this, you know? So I'd
like you to bring this back to specific city business and then continue, please. Yes.
Which part wasn't specific city business?
I would like you to just get back on track and continue.
I think I'm on track. It all deals with the city, Mike. You have to let me finish.
You
do that to only me, though.
No, I've done it to others.
Because race is a scary thing to talk about, right?
But anyway, not my problem.
I'm finished.
At all.
I'm finished.
No, you could continue.
No, I'm finished.
All right, thank you. The intent was not to stop you.
Well, it does, whenever you interrupt me.
The next speaker this evening is Beverly Quist. Thank you.
council has provided you a copy of section 3244, public comment period rule.
Are you in agreement with this?
Yes.
Please state your name and you may begin.
I am Beverly Quist, and I'm here to bring some attention to a codes and housing issue. I live in Genesee Court, and I've lived there for 30 years. You might not know, we are neighbors of Planned Parenthood and the Algonquin Apartments. The Ovalston is right across the street from us. Last week, and let me preface this with, Genesee Court has tried to work with the city for many years in improving conditions at this apartment building. The landlords have been very difficult. The city has not been very helpful. Last Thursday, one of the giant dumpsters, not a little dumpster like you have behind a building, but one of the enormous dumpsters was dumped out in the backyard of this apartment building, dumped out. And City of Utica DPW folks were there to, I apologize for my voice, I'm a little nervous, were there to clean up what was dumped out. To me, this shows enormous contempt for my neighborhood. So you've got all this trash. You have homes on Francis Street. You have all of the people in Genesee Court. You have an apartment building on the other side. So I don't know where the mice and the flies and all the rest are going to go. So it just struck me that you don't really care. I called the mayor's office and was told that this issue is a social services issue. So my thought was, oh, so the owner of this hauling company and maybe the mayor or the codes folks need a course in compassion from social services. This just strikes me as a really horrible way to treat a lovely neighborhood. So I'm here to complain about that and wish we, again, have worked about 10 years with the city to no avail. And I'm hoping for some help. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker this evening is Stefan Rubitsky. Common Council has provided you a copy of section 3244, public comment period rule. Are you in agreement with this?
Yes, the
Please.
name is Stefan Rubitsky.
Please state, or you may begin. Thank you.
Now, Complete Street, or whatever you call it, the bike lanes are very dangerous down downtown Genesee Street. They're very dangerous, and I know someone who works downtown, and they said that sometimes people don't look when they open their car doors, and it's easy to hit a bicycle, and it's very dangerous, and I would rethink the bike lanes if they want to be kept. And also, the South Utica Stewards is very good, and I thank the people that approved it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Sarah Moore. The Common Council's provided you a copy of section 3244, public comment period rule. Are you in agreement with this?
I am.
Please state your name and you may begin. Thank you.
My name is Sarah Moore, and I live on Genesee Street, downtown. While yes, I have been here in the past to speak about bike safety, I'm not here about bikes. I am here to talk about how deeply concerning it is to see members of this council put forward legislation that would make Genesee Street less safe for everyone. Yes, cyclists, but also pedestrians and even other drivers. Amending the traffic schedule to return Genesee to 4 lanes would be actively choosing the less safe option. And for what? convenience, a small political win, an engineering firm and our own Department of Transportation have repeatedly told us and you that the current road diet is the best option for a safer Genesee Street. Why some council members continue to ignore this, despite none of them being traffic engineers themselves, is beyond baffling. Even more than turning a blind eye to the overwhelming evidence in favor of the current traffic schedule, misinformation is actively being spread in this argument. We have seen business owners proclaim that all businesses on Genesee are against the road diet. This is simply not true. On Monday, a council member proclaimed that most people are against the road diet. A bold statement considering the citywide survey that was done proves the opposite. And I will add that this result even includes those negative responses that were submitted within a day of the survey opening and could not possibly reflect any experience. So I'm here once again to ask, how can you ignore expert recommendations? How can you ignore the decrease in traffic accidents on Genesee, no matter how big or small a 20% decrease seems to you personally? Returning Genesee to 4 lanes simply because you don't like being stuck in a few blocks of traffic is grossly irresponsible and negligent. I'm asking that you do what we elected you to do and put Uticans above political games and vote against the ordinance to reverse the road diet. Thank you.
Next speaker this evening is Deborah Adamkowski. The Common Council's provided you a copy of Section 3244, Public Comment Period Rule. Are you in agreement with this?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Please state your name and you may begin.
My name is Deborah Adamkowski, and I am a lifelong resident of the city of Utica. And I'm here tonight because of an interesting experience on July 6th when I attempted to get back to my residence in the 6th Ward. It prompted me to write my local councilman, and boy, I can tell you I'm sorry I missed the meeting on Monday. But anyway, I thought I will read my email to my councilman because it summarizes my ideas, and we will leave it at that. It says, "Dear Mr. Beatrice, while I'm a resident of your district, I do have numerous occasions to drive down Genesee Street. I wish that everyone would just leave Genesee Street 4 lanes and be done with it. When I first read about the proposed bike lane with a mid-street parking / turning lane, I asked myself which engineer that proposed this idea was not aware that Utica has winter at least 6 months out of the year. While there might be 1 or 2 people in the city who have no other transportation but a bicycle to use during the winter months, the rest of us travel by bus or auto or walk. So for at least 6 months out of the year, while the 3,000 plus people who use Genesee Street daily struggle with traffic in a single lane, the non-existent bike riders get their own constantly empty traffic lane. Does that make any sense at all? The middle lane, parking / turning lane, also made no sense to me. Using the center of the street for business deliveries would force the delivery people to cross oncoming traffic in either direction just to deliver goods. While having the left lane blocked for deliveries is annoying, it is less dangerous for the delivery driver as well as the drivers trying to move past the obstacle. I've had several occasions to travel down Genesee Street at rush hour, not by choice but necessity when both State Street and Broadway were closed, like July 6th. With 1 lane headed north at 5 p.m., I can tell you that traffic ties up at Court Street when people who are tired of waiting for traffic to move end up blocking the intersection when their traffic light turns yellow, then red, to avoid waiting yet another red light to get to their destination. The same thing happened at Elizabeth Street and Bleecker Streets. I've been there when that happened. The intersection becomes blocked and traffic stalls. 2 lanes of traffic will always clear faster than a single lane. Why does that fact seem to be so elusive? Frankly, rather than encouraging business downtown, I think the current pattern discourages it. I've found that I avoid the road as much as possible, and now only travel Genesee Street when I absolutely must do so to reach my destination. Your traffic accidents probably have declined because, like other drivers, I have found different routes to go. Although, when you look at it, there aren't many. The arterial and Genesee Street, they're main roads. That's it. I would encourage you to vote to return the traffic pattern for Genesee Street to 4 lanes without any bike lane. Sometimes a bad idea is just a bad idea, and the single lane change was truly, in my opinion, a bad idea. And with that, I would say to you, I am a driver. I will probably always be a driver. Walking down Genesee Street is too far for me. I come and travel Genesee Street only when I must, but when I must, it is a nightmare. Thank you.
Next speaker this evening is Deb Griffin. The Common Council has provided you a copy of Section 3244 Public Comment Period Rule. Are you in agreement with this?
Yes, I am.
Please state your name and you may begin.
My name's Deb Griffin. I'm co-owner with my husband of Griffin's Pub. I'm speaking on behalf of Swifties, Nichols Jewelers, Golden's, Ed Lasik, and Pizza Classic, and our business, Griffin's Pub. They're all against the 2 lanes. We're all asking for the 4 lanes back. It has not worked. And we're there every day, and we see it. We see the emergency vehicles. We see the police cars going up the center lanes. We see the fire trucks. We see the backup of cars. We see the delivery trucks. We're living it every single day, and no one will listen to us. Now, you can say that we've been quoted as being pro-growth people, and we want to go backwards in time. Well, you know what? All the businesses I just mentioned have been in downtown 40+ years, okay? If anything, we kept downtown alive. Our businesses kept people coming. Ed Lasik has a set clientele of elderly people that have generations have been coming to him. Paul with Nichols Jewelers, the same. Our business. And now our customers are afraid to come down. They don't feel comfortable. They cannot parallel park. This has not turned into a safety issue. This has turned into a business issue. And this is not a political issue, because I don't know what the other restaurants, what their political views are. We haven't shared any of that. We have shared to do business in the downtown of Utica and to keep it safe for our customers to come down is currently not working for any of us. So I'm asking this common council to please revisit this, go back to 4 lanes, make our business lucrative, make people want to come down again. The hospital has not even come in yet. So I can't imagine the traffic that is going to bring in. And people are not going to want to come downtown. When you have that influx of cars and travel and emergency vehicles and so on. So that's my last speech on this. I talked on Monday, I spoke on Monday, and I asked you all to reconsider it, and I believe it's going to vote tonight. But again, we've been told that we're emotional, and unfortunately we are, because we never had an input. We were never asked. I just named 6 businesses that have been longevity in our downtown, and not one of us has been approached by Common Council representative to ask what we think, neither before they implemented it for the trial or after they finally decided to make it a permanent change. So I ask, anything going forward with downtown, maybe we can be included. And we're not anti-growth. We're not pro-growth. If anything, we want the city to thrive so our businesses continue to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Final speaker this evening is Sam Nasimos. If you could come forward, thank you. Common Council has provided you a copy of Section 3244 Public Comment Period Rule. It's before you at the podium.
Yes,
Thank you. Please state your name. You may begin.
Sam Nasmos.
Thank you.
I'm here tonight at the meeting because I come to City Hall all the time to try to get things done for South Utica because the people that can control that are here. I get a chance to talk to a lot of people. Recently, I had the whole lobby to me and the mayor. And I didn't want to address any issues. My issue is with South Utica. So I'm not speaking for anything for me, but this is kind of a request list. It's nothing by my house, for me. It's for my neighborhood. The traffic has increased immensely at the Link Apartments. So I did talk to Andy in engineering, and it's chewing up the road. And the city has been nice enough to send somebody down there with CoPro and fill the holes. The fella's the nicest guy in the world. But it's just eating up the rest of the CoPro is surviving, and the actual pavement is gone. So the traffic at the Link is constant. The garbage trucks come almost every day. Vending machine trucks come. So it's gonna put wear and tear on all of Sunset from Seward on. I want to address down by Melrose and Lynch. There's 2 drains there that are well a foot below the street level. They're sinking. And I don't believe anybody in the engineering department has even been down there to look at it. Maybe they have, so I'm not gonna say. So again, that's not for me, but they're 2 drains side by side, and they are way below, and they've collected everything under the sun is flowing into those. I did call Danielle. She was out in the mayor's office. She's a very helpful person. Seward and Sunset needs to be restriped. The last time I had it striped, Julian was the mayor. And I called him, and it was striped the next day. So I'm trying to get that striped because Meeker was striped when they repaved it, thank God. And they did the new modern striping, which is really, really wide, very noticeable. It's a very walked neighborhood. Dogs, strollers, older people, couples, they walk it even into the night because it's a safe neighborhood. Although I've talked to the police chief, he's addressed it a couple times and did some good stuff down there. We do have the youngsters now that it's summertime. They are heavy-footed, I was too, and they got their cars out and they're running red lights and they're high speed and reckless driving. But the police chief is on it. And so the striping, I asked the police chief to look into a security camera down there because the chief knows that they're running the red light on Sunset and Seward, and it's one of our most dangerous intersections in the city of Utica. It's a giant X, and it comes on a sharp bend. And the traffic from Genesee Street down to Shenantries, it's a busy section. And it's getting busier now with the Link apartment building. So, again, people running the signals there, they don't stop at Meeker, they run through the stop sign there. The police chief did have a traffic unit down there, and it was quite successful from the hours of 4 to 7. He called me himself to notify me that they had quite a few citations, including an arrest. That's basically why I came here tonight, because like I said, I don't mind coming, I'm retired, so I don't mind coming down to City Hall. You know, I tell Jimmy, don't arrest me if I get a little bit ignorant, but he gets a kick out of that. But that's it, I'm here because this is where, I guess you give us the time?
Thank you.
It's not for me personally, it's for my neighborhood.
Thank you. Final speaker this evening. Thank you. Next order of business this evening. Common Council guests, to which we have none. Communications from the mayor.
do believe we have a letter from the mayor. We'll read that into the record as soon as I pull it out. This is a letter from Mayor Paul Mary, addressed to the council president, members of the council, and the city clerk, Melissa Shortino. This is in the mayor's words, the way it's written. I have both updates and concerns that I would like to share with the common council. First, I want to thank our residents and partners for an amazing Boilermaker road race earlier this month after the pandemic. There had been concern as to whether our events and traditions would be permanently diminished. I think this year's race put those concerns to rest. Thanks to the participants, the organizers, and the volunteers of Utica's marquee event, the Boilermaker's future is now bright as it ever was. We've also started to conduct pedestrian-only trials on some nights on Barrack Street. I want to emphasize, again, this is the mayor's words, I want to emphasize to the council and to the public that this was done at the request of our business owners and public safety departments. There were concerns about vehicles that were congregating on the street, hosting crowds, and not patronizing businesses. There were also concerns about pedestrian safety and access being blocked to business entrances. So we're working to see if we can come up with a system that works for businesses, customers, and public safety. This will require feedback and flexibility to meet the needs of everyone as we continue to look for a solution that makes Barrack Street safe, vibrant, and a focal point of our city. Finally, on the Genesee Street traffic pattern. That's the sentence, I guess. I have sent you all another email that I received today from the New York State Department of Transportation. Once again, the agency is expressing concern about changing the traffic pattern back to 4 lanes. As it has all along, the Department of Transportation continues to express the need to slow the tempo of traffic and make our downtown safer and more pedestrian friendly. I will also remind you that our internal traffic engineers favor the change to 3 lanes. We also hired external traffic engineers as consultants who have concluded that 3 lanes meets the needs of our growing downtown. The external engineers made that conclusion after taking into account the projected changes in downtown traffic once the Wynn Hospital opens later this year. I would urge the Common Council to heed the advice of our employees, our partners, and our consultants. There are still improvements that need to be made. The north-south interchange on Oriskany Street needs to be fixed. We need stamped plans from an engineer to execute this correction, and we're working to make that happen. The synchronization of the traffic lights and the visibility of signage both need to be improved, and we're awaiting new signs and traffic lights that we've ordered to address that. The lead times on this equipment has been irritatingly long. I know it's frustrating. Those things haven't happened yet. I share that frustration, but I also cannot fathom how we could justify ignoring the engineers that are telling us that we need to do this to keep our residents safe. Safety, not politics, must be our #1 priority. Again, the way this is written, this is in the mayor's words that I'm reading into the record for anyone who may be joining the meeting. I would urge the Common Council to remember that some of our most vulnerable residents live downtown. The Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired and RCIL are located downtown. Apartment complexes like McCardivan, Genesee Towers, Kennedy Plaza, the Asteri, Historical Park Apartments, and Lillian Cooper Apartments are specifically dedicated to housing populations with disabilities and high needs. Roads aren't just about people getting through our city, they're also about people living in our city. Thank you for all your diligence and hard work in a summer where there are so many exciting opportunities and challenges. That concludes the mayor's message to the council. Okay.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules of order to vote on ordinance for a motion to reconsider.
I would like to continue with the reports from the city officers and the miscellaneous communications before we move on to legislation.
I'll wait to
Thank you.
I'll wait for those.
All right.
Thank you.
Reports from the city officers. Corporation Council.
I just wanted to let everyone know I did look up during the meeting information regarding the ARPA transfers. And from what I've done right now, it does appear that because they're unanticipated revenues, they do follow the process which is in the charter, which is that any funds in an amount in excess of the $15,000 have to be approved by the Common Council. So that is my understanding of it. So you will need to approve it until we change it or there's other information. That is my understanding of the provisions of the second class cities law, and then in conjunction, with our charter.
Thank you.
That's it.
Okay. Commissioner Thomas.
Nothing.
Chief Williams. Welcome.
Earlier, we had Officer Castillo hand out a bunch of police recruitment flyers. what we're asking the common council to do is help us get a good turnout for the written police test, which is gonna be given on September 9th. There is a deadline to sign up for the test. It's gonna be August 10th. And what's unique about this year that we haven't done in the past, we have a dedicated police recruitment website. A lot of great information on it, to include the fact that the hiring process, you could access the everything online, whether it's the application for the test or a fillable form. You could fill out the application right online and submit it right to our civil service office. And the fee, the $50 fee to take the test, has been waived this year. So in the first day that we had our website up and running, and we put out a press release out to the public, we had 24 people sign up in one day. So we're hoping that more people access the website, continue to sign up for the test, and we're anticipating about 10 vacancies that we have to hire for. Thank you.
Thank you. Cash reports. Oh, Chief Ingersoll, right there. Sorry. Chief Ingersoll, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no report.
Thank you very much. Do we have a cash report? Sorry.
City of Utica cash report for June 2023, total 72.742 million received and filed.
Thank you. We have a miscellaneous communication that came in, and there was a request to read an email. It is regarding the 3 versus 4 lane traffic configuration. This was somebody who had signed up to speak and then decided not to speak at the special meeting on Monday. This is from Gene Tobin. While I was at the Common Council meeting on Monday the 17th, I decided not to speak but rather listen. I would like to share some thoughts below. Please share with your fellow Common Council members as you see fit. I have been a licensed professional engineer for more than 25 years. I retired from New York State DOT after almost 30 years. I spent 17 years in highway design and 12 years in the traffic and safety group. I was the regional safety evaluation engineer for the last 10 years of my tenure. I designed over 100 projects and collaborated on many more. Most of these projects included modification and reconfiguration of travel lanes and pedestrian bicycle facilities. I am in agreement with an ordinance to amend the complete streets policy and change the 3-lane section back to the original 4-lane. This is in Mr. Tobin's words. I'm reading this into the record. While I agree that the roadway having a 2-lane left turn lane can be safer, this is not always the case. Highways such as Seneca Turnpike in New Hartford and Risking Boulevard in New Yorkville benefit greatly due to the many left turns both into and from driveways. I don't believe the segment of Genesee Street between the Stanley Theater and Route 5S has any driveways. Therefore, the TWLTL will not reduce the number of left turn or right angle crashes, but will, in conjunction with reducing the number of through lanes from 1 to 2, will in all likelihood increase the number of rear end and backing parallel parking crashes. The Genesee Street Road Diet Study completed by CNS dated 4/3/23 illustrates that the level of service is not adversely impacted by going from a 4-lane to 3-lane section. Visual field observations and traffic flow tell a different story, especially during AM and PM peak hours. The LOS is significantly reduced and delays significantly increased. Once the hospital opens, this will only get worse. I do not know if a study was done recommending the creation of bike lanes. If one was done, it should have been based on need. Were bicycle counts and pedestrian counts done? What did the crash analysis reveal for bicycles? Keep in mind that bicycles have the same legal right as motorized vehicles and are allowed to travel in the travel lane. A bike lane will require bicycles to travel next to car doors continuously opening. It is my understanding that the City of Utica created an ordinance or passed legislation making it legal to load and or unload in the TWLTL. This should be seriously reconsidered, as it would create a very unsafe situation, not to mention the liability. The vehicle and traffic law of the state of New York states that doing so is illegal. This is it should also be noted that when a vehicle is stopped or standing in the travel lane, it is also illegal to pass that vehicle by entering the TWLTL. To summarize, and this is in Mr. Tobin's words, I do think traffic calming and the concept of complete streets is often beneficial. I also think that introducing a 3-lane design here will not reduce the number of crashes overall, but will cause motorists to seek alternate routes away from the downtown business district. Regards, Gene Tobin, PE, New York State licensed professional engineer.
I also have another piece from Linda Luby. Here. All right. This was a letter from Linda Luby, the Regional Director of New York State Department of Transportation, Mohawk Valley Region, to Mayor Palmieri. This was also referenced in the mayor's address to the council. Mayor Palmieri, the New York State Department of Transportation remains in support of the classic road diet that was implemented last fall that converted Genesee Street from a 4-lane undivided roadway segment to a 3-lane segment consisting of 2 through lanes and a center 2-way left turn lane. A road diet has been a proven low-cost solution selected by transportation engineers for decades for the safety benefit of all transportation modes. This complete street approach has been successfully implemented in urban areas across the nation. Dedicated left turn lanes are also critical on this segment of Genesee Street to accommodate travel patterns that will change with the opening of the Wynn Hospital. We urge the city to move forward with traffic signal modifications which will reduce vehicular delay and allow for the future mutual coordination with the intersection of State Route 5S. For more information on road diets, refer to the Federal Highway Administration, Road Diets, Roadway Reconfiguration, FHWA.dot.gov. Signed Linda A. Luby, PEPTOE, Regional Director, New York State DOT, Mohawk Valley Region. I believe that's all of the miscellaneous communications. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion, with all due respect to the business owners and people for and opposition of the agenda item tonight, considering Genesee Street. I'd like to make a motion to waive the rules of order.
You'd like to change the order of business?
Order of business.
Yes.
Yes,
Is
please.
there a second to change the order of business?
Second.
Can we put the votes on the board to change the order of business to move this legislation now?
Yes.
And
Yes.
Frank DeBrango, what is your vote on that?
Yay.
Okay.
Yay.
All right, everyone else put it up on the board. Call? Yes.
Thank
Okay. All right, we have now changed the order of business. We'll be dealing with the legislation that sits in committee. As soon as I pull out my committee folder here. At this time.
Okay, so I'd make a motion to reconsider ordinance number 107 that was passed on May 1st by the Common Council. It's an ordinance adding a new traffic schedule.
Second.
This, we have a second. Please clear the board. Councilmember DeBrango, what is your motion, or what is your vote on the motion to reconsider ordinance 107
Wait.
dated May 1st, 2023? I'll have you guys put it up on the board.
No, but you're calling for votes before, I have a point of information.
We have debate.
This is a motion to reconsider,
I understand.
which, okay, so before the vote, yes.
Can I-
What- Yes,
Yeah.
you have the floor.
Can we have this legislation in front of us, please?
Has
we
it
ha-
been handed out or not?
Yes, it should be 107, 108, 109.
Yes, I believe it was distributed to the full council.
Yes.
Okay, correct, thank
Okay,
Yep,
great.
thank you.
Thank you. For all intents and purposes, that makes perfect sense that you want that, so, yeah. All right, so, Councilman DeBrango, your vote on the motion to reconsider. This is not on the reconsideration of the legislation, it's the vote to reconsider. Your vote to reconsider?
Yay.
Okay, and everyone else on the board, this is the motion to reconsider. Six votes. Okay, so ordinance 107, the ordinance adding a new traffic schedule dated May 1st, 2023, which at that time was passed by 5 yeas and 4 nays, is on the floor for a vote.
Well, 6. Frank.
We did say 6, yes. Yeah, we won't have Frank on the board, so, all right.
This is for the vote.
All right, so now, this is the vote. So this is a vote on ordinance 107. This,
Clear that.
please clear the board. A vote in the affirmative will repass this. A vote no will vote this down, just so everyone is clear, because sometimes motions to reconsider are misunderstood on the floor, so I just wanted to clarify. Your votes on ordinance 107.
It's very confusing. Can you just reiterate?
Yes,
please?
so we passed the motion to reconsider.
Right, 'cause
Okay,
I'm
so
about
now
to-
this is no different on the floor again, just as it was on May 1st, 2023. If you vote yes, I will, just please, the chair will specify. If you vote yes on this legislation, you're voting to pass this. If you vote no on this legislation, you're voting it down.
And if you don't remember how you voted, it's listed at the bottom of the sheet.
Correct. Yes. You may have that. You have it, actually, yes. Drew, if you could please make sure he has that while I process the motions. Thank you. All right, Councilman DeBrango, how do you vote on the legislation that was originally passed on May 1st, 2023, is ordinance 107?
Nay.
Okay, everyone else, please put your votes on the board. Call the vote. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So 6.
Yep.
6 nays.
6 nays. This legislation has been defeated. On reconsideration.
I would state it differently, that's all.
Okay.
It's actually a motion to rescind.
No, it's a motion to reconsider.
Well, reconsider it, then the rescind.
Carry on. Yes.
Okay, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to reconsider ordinance number 108, ordinance amending lane designations.
Is there a second?
Second.
This is ordinance 108, dated May 1st, 2021. Councilman DeBrango, what is your vote to reconsider ordinance 108, dated May 1st, 2023?
No.
No. He
He
wants to
voted-
reconsider. Explain it to him. Yes to reconsider, no to vote down.
All right.
It's very hard to hear over the
Coun-
speaker.
I can't hear her too well.
Okay. Councilman DeBrango, can you hear the council president?
Yes, I can.
All right, perfect. There was a motion on the floor to reconsider ordinance 108, amending the lane designations dated May 1st, 2023. This is a vote to reconsider on this legislation. This was the legislation regarding the left turn lane, et cetera, the lane designations. So what is your vote to reconsider?
I didn't get that piece in front of me because they didn't send it to me via email.
Okay, so if,
And I believe he may be
I'm
thinking
familiar
about
with the piece,
the other one.
yeah.
so let me tell you, if this is to consider left-hand turn lanes,
No, so here's what I'm going to do. Give me 1 second. Did you email these to us? Can you email them to me right now? Can you please email these right? Email you? Yes. Well, email them to Frank, if that's the case, yes. Thank you.
Tell him it's following the reconsideration.
No, I'm
I mean,
not
I
going to
just
tell
want-
him
I just
anything.
wanna
I
make
want
sure.
him to see the
No, I
legislation.
understand that. I
Just as if.
It is hard
council-
to hear.
Yes.
I've been there, done that, so.
Well, and considering. AC went off. Hear that? Somebody turned the cool air off. I used to always have the final countdown queued up on my phone. All right, it's going through the internet pipes. All right. Councilman DeBrango, please check your email, and you will have the. All right, very good.
okay, read it again, please.
Okay, you have the email in front of you.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor which has been, there was a second, to reconsider ordinance 108 dated May 1st, 2023. Do you have ordinance 108 in front of you?
Yes, I have it right here. Ordinance amending land designation.
All right, so the motion right now is to reconsider this, which would bring it to the floor for a vote once again. So what is your vote on the motion to okay, yes. All right, please everyone else put that on the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. It is-
6 yeas.
Thank you. 6 yeas. It's on the floor for reconsideration. If there's no other debate or discussion, clear the board. Okay, your votes on this legislation. Councilman DeBrango, how would you vote on this legislation?
No.
All right, everyone else put their votes on the board, please. Okay.
6 yeas defeated. Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to reconsider ordinance number 109, which is an ordinance amending truck zone.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. The motion to reconsider on ordinance 109 dated May 1st, 2023. Councilman DeBrango, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. Everyone else put your votes on the board. This is the vote to reconsider, not the vote on the legislation.
6 yeas to reconsider.
Okay, ordinance 109, ordinance amending truck zone dated May 1st, 2023 is on the floor once again for a vote. Council, your votes. Councilman DeBrango? How do you vote on this legislation?
No.
All right,
No.
thank you.
It is confusing. 6 nays defeated.
Legislation was defeated. Do you have any other pieces to reconsider, Council President?
No, I don't, but I'd like to make a motion to bring ordinance amending the traffic schedule. It's ordinance number 1. Date of legislation is July 17, 2023.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second. This is a motion to pull from committee. Your votes to pull this legislation from committee, I'm just gonna call in any opposed. It's to pull it from committee. Any opposed to pulling this from committee? All right. 2 nays, that's 7 votes to pull it from committee. This legislation is on the floor for a vote. This is an ordinance amending traffic schedule. This was sponsored by Councilmember Beatrice, Colosimo Testa, Williamson, dated 7/17/2023, proposed ordinance number 1. Whereas it is the intent of the Common Council to pass legislation amending the number of lanes on Genesee Street to be consistent with the traffic pattern as it was prior to the enactment of the 90-day complete street policy. Be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Utica that Section 216-385 of the Utica Code of Ordinances shall be amended to include Genesee Street from Oriskany Street to Cottage Place increased from 1 lane to 2 lanes of traffic in each direction going north and south. Further ordained that the proper pavement markings be placed where necessary, and this will go in effect immediately after. Your votes.
Could we talk about it?
Oh,
Can we
yeah,
have a debate?
definitely. Thank you for requesting that.
You're welcome.
The chair can call for a vote,
Okay.
and if someone from the floor requests to debate, that's perfectly in order. So I would appreciate just processing the meeting as normal. Thank you. You have the floor.
So, multiple varied public safety experts ranging from, well, including the State Department of Transportation's Regional Director, independent traffic engineers, CNS Engineering, our own engineers, and our police department have given us lots of varied information telling us that the current arrangement is safer than the prior arrangement. And people can disagree with that, But as someone entrusted with public safety, I have to listen to expert advice. And I think that's always the case with public safety. We don't ask the general public whether they want a stop sign on their street. We ask the police department to come and look at an intersection and make a judgment as to whether a stop sign will increase public safety. So I understand that people are frustrated. I'm frustrated. We're all frustrated with how this process is unfolded, with how long it takes to order a traffic light, with the state's requirement that they get a stamped engineering plans before they can change an arrow from one configuration to another. We all get that this has been a long, drawn-out process, and that's frustrating. It is clearly safer. And we have had multiple inputs telling us that this is safer. And when we deliberately, intentionally, knowingly return to a less safer arrangement on our streets, we are going to make ourselves liable when someone gets hurt. And I'd love to say if someone gets hurt, but it's not a question of if someone gets hurt, it's a question of when someone gets hurt. When someone gets hurt, whether it's a driver of an automobile or a pedestrian or a cyclist, when someone gets hurt, they are going to be able to make the argument that we knowingly rearrange the streets into a less safe arrangement. And there is strong precedent in New York State for that making us liable. We will be sued. The city will be sued, and the taxpayers will be on the hook for that. The first consideration that any elected official should make is public safety. Everybody wants our streets, our neighborhoods to be safe for all of us. We are willfully ignoring that evidence in favor of people's opinions about what's safe and what's not. I'm really discouraged by this. Discouraged by my colleagues for not paying attention to the basic expert advice that has been provided to us repeatedly, to the basic arguments which have shown that people's frustration with, say, traffic delays or when you're coming south on North Genesee Street at the Oriskany intersection, it's frustrating that 2 lanes have to merge into one, and we've repeatedly explained why those are temporary problems which we are in the process of fixing. The arguments against this pit short-term convenience against human safety. And I think it's very, very discouraging that so many of my colleagues have fallen prey to those really terrible arguments. So this is just so discouraging. We can disagree with each other. We do disagree with each other over all sorts of things. But I wish that we shared a more basic commitment to making sure that people in the city of Utica were safe. To hear my colleagues say that a 20% reduction in car accidents isn't enough, is a wash, and isn't important enough to forego, to put up with a minor inconvenience of waiting for a traffic light to be replaced or waiting for an arrow to be repainted. It's just really discouraging. I'll be voting against this, of course. And one thing I'd also like to point out is that and I'd have to look back at the record, but I believe Councilmember Aiello have been consistent on this. We have voted for one thing from the beginning. We have listened to the experts every time. Other people come and go with the wind. And I think that that's one of the things that shows that people don't have a basic commitment to public safety. And I just find that really disgusting. I'm done, Mr. President.
Councilman Beechers, I'm going to give you the floor first.
Thank you. So there's a couple of things that I want to speak on. As far as consistency, I've been consistent on this from day one, okay? As far as the 20% safety, You're talking 11 accidents to 7, 4 different in a winter where we had no winter. As far as recommendation from the police, when this was shoved down our throat 15 minutes before the vote, I believe Deputy Police Noonan said he'd never seen this and there was not an issue with safety. As far as listening to the city engineer or the CNS engineering, let's really talk about the CNS engineering study. Okay, the CNS engineering study was down here to do a study that wasn't done in proper timing for lights around the hospital. They spent all of 4 hours on a day in January, talking about this study. When the girl came here and did PowerPoint, I actually felt sorry for her. She showed a PowerPoint. Now, if they did a study of how safe this is going to be, there should have been a picture of Griffin's Pub, the Stanley, Pizza Classic. You know what we had pictures of? We had a picture of Saratoga. We had a picture of Syracuse, New York, and a picture of one other municipality that I can't think off the top of my head. Okay? When I asked the lady about turning lanes, okay, she couldn't answer anything about it. She didn't know anything about turning lanes. And we want to talk about lawsuits. Let's look at the lawsuit that we have here in Kingston going on right now with bike lanes. Person was in a bike, bus hit them in the bike, and Kingston's getting sued. That's getting sued. That's not what might happen. So things can happen all the time. Okay? I've been hearing that the city has spent $250,000 on traffic lights. Well, you know what? They spent $250,000 on traffic lights for Court Street and for French Road. The DOT has purchased the lights from years ago, and those lights will still be synced whether it's 3 lanes or 4 lanes. Okay? You want to talk about the money the city got for intersections. They got money for the intersections for 4 lanes. Okay? That's when the money was granted, and the money will still be done there. So all this stuff, there's not one person on this council that is against complete streets. It doesn't work for Genesee Street. And it was never brought out right. It was shoved down our throat. We have the biggest project in this city in 100 years, and you should have never did bike lanes in October before winter. So that's all I got to say. And you know what? It's getting a little bit, over and over and over. And as far as changing votes, I know 6th Ward councilman never changed his vote from day one. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I just have 2 questions. One for the police chief.
As the chair.
One for the fire
as
chief.
we're going around, this is the debate
Sure.
on legislation. Based on prior statements, I'm gonna move on to somebody who is in support of the legislation. This is a debate.
Sure, even though we'll go back and forth. I appreciate that.
Sorry, that's
wonderful.
Robert's rules,
Appreciate it.
Councilperson Ayala, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, we visit this conversation again. I think one of the most interesting parts of this whole debate has been hearing, it's been kind of funny, that this shouldn't go through the council. This should be up to the engineers. Why are we getting involved? It's political. The whole thing that happened in October, I made a resolution requesting the administration to do what they do, and that had to happen, I feel like, because back in 2020, the administration did it. Everybody lost their minds and wanted to change it and said it shouldn't go through that way, and the council tried changing their privileges to make it happen. So here we are. I was a First Ward councilperson in favor of these changes, wanting to work with the administration to do what is right for the city. Now, let's just bring it up. That day when this was, shoved in everybody's face, as they say, with 15 minutes prior, this has been on the books for 10 years. The paper that you got, I know that's always a concern. It wasn't the exact layout. No, it was, we were going to find out what the engineers were going to implement, but we already had what New York State DOT gave us. That was what we looked at. They have approved this, and we even had more cars on average a day back then when that was on. Doesn't matter anymore. The part that's funny to me is that 14 down to 11 traffic accidents isn't enough. And the reason actually though that happened is because when you let's start from the beginning for anybody listening. 4 lanes of traffic is meant for 15,000 to 20,000 cars a day. We have on average 7,000. When cars have more space than is necessary, the more reckless they drive. Traffic accidents also go up when people make unnecessary lane changes. So the traffic accidents we are seeing are unnecessary, and if you look at the case of Totoro versus New York City, it's also a foreseeable consequence that the city is liable for. In that lawsuit, actually, the cities didn't do a study and they knew they had to. Here we already did one and we know the outcome and we know it's safer. But when you actually make the road not overbuilt and the appropriate width for the amount of cars we have, and people, if you reduce speed by about 3 miles per hour, you actually see a 27% decrease in traffic accidents, which is what we saw. So I guess if nothing else, this message is for anybody. If we do go back to 4 lanes, you might have a pretty decent lawsuit on your hands for this, with the city based on precedents of what the appellate division has set. But I do want to also add, this administration has spent over $350,000 on this. Based on, we have the traffic study, the temporary paint, just to see if it worked. It did, and then it confirmed everything our engineering department said, and CNS Engineering, and what Linda Luby from New York State DOT came in to say what was safer. And then the traffic lights were ordered on the basis of the turning lane for this, based on us voting in 3 lanes. They weren't going to get purchased otherwise. And we voted on 3 lanes twice. We even compromised. This started a long time ago as a median down the center of the road, and that wasn't working with business owners. It has evolved into the concept it is now, and even took out bike lanes. It's fine. It's not. There's plenty of reasons to have bike lanes. A street with the most points of access and the most businesses to attend and the most residents living in one spot should have the most modes of transportation safely to get there. And to go back to 4 lanes, after we already voted on 3 lanes twice, now we are wasting $355,000 of taxpayer money when we are about to see what the turn signals for the new traffic lights will do to change this. If nothing else, we should just wait until the fall, get those in, and the improvements will be significant. That's not just coming from me, that's from New York State, people who have worked in New York State DOT. But we are just wasting $350,000 for a short-sighted, very short-sighted decision here tonight, potentially. And it's just, yeah, I mean, maybe it's true. Maybe Complete Streets doesn't work in Utica. That's pretty sad. Pretty sad. But other than that, yeah, you guys know where I stand on everything else, but I guess just for the record, for anybody else listening tonight, if you ever need this for future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you for saving the best for last. No, I'm just kidding.
You might not be last. There's a few more. Councilperson Colasmo Testi, you have the floor.
Couple of things tonight. Number one, the lights for Genesee Street were already going to be purchased. When we put the concept for the hospital going downtown, I don't know if Chief Ingersoll was there at the time, or if it was the acting chief at the time, but that was always the concept once a new hospital came, is that we were buying lights for Genesee Street and made sure that they went all down Genesee Street to accommodate the fact that the new hospital was opening with the ambulance services. So the lights were coming from 2019. That's number one. Number two is, how can any engineer have any input and any say when the council passed a resolution on Wednesday and the design concept changed on a Saturday of that following week to Genesee Street? So no engineer was allowed to have any say into anything that went on. Third, they said that public safety is the most important part to this, and it's infuriating to me. The night of that meeting, Chief Williams, were you aware of the changes to Genesee Street coming the night that the resolution was passed by the Common Council?
We were not.
Thank you. Chief Ingersoll, were you aware of the changes that were coming to Genesee Street the night that the Common Council changed the ordinance?
I had not seen it.
Okay, so public safety is the main priority, yet 2 of the most important people in this room had no idea that changes were coming to Genesee Street. okay? That's not the most important part to your thing. The most important part to say was I was putting bike lanes down Genesee Street. I was changing the pattern of Genesee Street to accommodate whoever you guys had going on. But public safety was not your top priority.
Please
You know what?
address the chair.
I apologize.
That's
So you know
fine.
what a top priority to me is? And Chief Ingersoll, I think that you could respond to this. Is it a norm for a fire truck to drive down the middle lane of Genesee Street in a delivery turning lane as a norm to go down Genesee Street from Bleecker Street to Whitesboro Street or Court Street?
It is now.
It is now. Was it ever a norm prior to this? I mean, I feel like you're on the juror. I'm very sorry, but I mean, it's very important that I get these questions answered because it is
Honestly,
important to us.
It depends on the time of day. It all depends on traffic.
So
density.
early morning, okay? Because I'm pretty sure I was there at 9 a.m. the other day, and I've been there a couple of times, and I watched a fire truck come from Bleecker Street, turn left on Genesee Street, and had a bob and weave while they were down the center turning delivery lane on Genesee Street. That's a norm. That's not a norm prior to that, okay? Which is another reason why public safety wasn't a main concern. So now I'm going to ask a couple questions and Chair, if you don't mind me directing to the Chief of Police and the Chief of the Fire Department to just give their commentary a little bit on how the
Direct them to
changes
chair and
has affected them.
At this time, I would not appreciate you putting the public safety officials on the spot for commentary unless they confirm they would like to say anything. If you guys want
Sure.
to allow this debate to continue as is, that's perfectly fine. The council has been dealing with this since last October. Do you have any commentary? I'm gonna ask them,
Sure.
do you have any commentary?
I would just say this, we were not asked early on in this whole process to give an opinion or assessment on whether complete streets was the way to go. It wasn't until they asked for traffic accident data that we did get involved in this. When we looked at the more complex traffic issues, which this is one of them, we're not traffic engineers. So we refer to traffic engineers for the city to use to get assessment on this. I can't say for one way or another way complete streets are safe or unsafe. The only thing I will tell you, there's definitely some concerns. One of the things we did see with the accident data that came out yesterday, we are seeing an increased amount of motor vehicle accidents now that are coming from North Utica going southbound, trying to merge into that lane on Genesee Street between Oriskany Street and the busy corner there. And that was supposed to be corrected by the state, or is going to be corrected by the state. It hasn't happened yet. So that's where we are seeing an increase in accidents. Pros and cons, you can look at it both ways. Complete streets does slow down traffic as far as speeding issues. So again, I defer to the experts. We're not traffic engineers. So when you ask the police department to say, is this a go or a no-go? On the more complex issues, we're not going to give that.
Thank you. Chief Ingersoll, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would just say that the fire department, it's one of the crucial things to our response through downtown and through that, whether it's north, south, or east or west across Oriskany Boulevard, is the implementation of the Opticom system, which gives us the right of way. Our vehicles, when they're in emergency response mode, with their lights and siren on, they have a system, it's a GPS mounted system that turns the light green for the direction that we're traveling in. It is imperative that all the systems, the Opticom systems are working throughout that entire corridor. That it has a positive impact on our response times, whether it's coming from North Utica into the city or whether it's going from south to north. And the Opticom system is an essential part of our response, and as long as that system is working, we have some better movement with traffic patterns, and we just have to make sure that we maintain that system.
Anything else? Thank you. I'd like you to continue, but they provided their commentary.
That's
Please.
all I'm saying is that
Thank you.
public safety was not number one, and neither were our engineers before it was passed. So that's it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Is anyone else ready to speak that has not
Yes,
spoken?
Mr. President.
Councilman DeBrango, you have the floor.
Yeah, just a couple of quick points I just want to make. I did text with Councilman Miola, and he just wanted me to share some information with our colleagues. He said, I called 16 businesses today within the Genesee Street 2-lane chain district. 15 would like the street changed back to 4 lanes, and 1 wanted it to remain 2 lanes. he wanted me to reiterate that to
Okay.
Our fellow colleagues. The only, my other concern here is, about 4 weeks ago, we passed legislation to get rid of that white line there that made up the supposed bike lane, and it never happened. Are we gonna get a date? I know we're saying it's gonna be done in our legislation as soon as possible, as soon as we pass the legislation. But is there any way that maybe our clerk can find out what the actual date is going to be when this is gonna take place? Because this has been lingering on a little bit too long, and I'd like to get it done as soon as possible. So, hopefully our clerk could, maybe reach out, or I could reach out to someone and find out what's the time frame on it.
Corporation, thank you. Corporation Counsel has signaled that they will get that date for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilperson Ayala, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak to Mr. DeBringo's question. I was asking the same thing, and Mike Mahoney, I said a couple things. With the New York State DOT, with the traffic accidents coming from north to south, crossing that intersection with that merge, New York State DOT was waiting to fix that until they had a certified blueprint, new updated copy from CNS Engineering. So once this council voted the second time and we removed the buffer lane for the 3 lanes, our engineering department took that back to CNS Engineering. They spent probably another $7,000 for new blueprints that will be certified this weekend. He said this weekend or next, and then we would have state DOT would then change the light configuration. But if we do this, then that, I guess, restarts the whole process and wastes that money. That's what I wanted to add to that.
Thank you. Anything else from the floor? Nope. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to reiterate that there's a piece of legislation on the floor for a vote. It is ordinance number 1, ordinance amending traffic schedule. This legislation reads, be it ordained by the Common Council for the City of Utica that Section 216.385 of the Utica Code of Ordinances shall be amended to include Genesee Street from Oriskany Street to Cottage Place, increased from 1 lane to 2 lanes of traffic in each direction going north and south. Further ordained that the proper pavement markings be placed where necessary, and this will go in effect immediately after. Your votes on the legislation. I'll ask them once.
Yes.
Okay.
6 yeas adopted.
Yeah, yes.
Yes, thank you, Councilperson DeBrango.
Point of order, Mr. President.
Just one clarification, in moving forward, with this legislation now voting 6-2, can we please explain that it will be now veto-proof through the administration, so there's no course of action?
So, it's technically...
But just for clarification purposes, can you explain that process?
Well, the process is that the mayor could still veto this.
Right.
And then it would be up to him to do that, knowing 6 votes voted it through.
Right.
But the mayor can absolutely still veto this and send it back
Right.
to council.
Right.
That has nothing to do with our vote, even if it was unanimous.
I know, I was just trying to explain.
6 votes, if the mayor does veto this, would then approve that even after a mayor's veto.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to be clear that veto proof is kind of a subjective notion.
I
It's not,
apologize.
yes, thank you, that's fine.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on. Petitions, remonstrances, and appeals. First District, Councilmember Katie Aiello, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to say it was a great Boilermaker weekend. Lots of fun. Thank you to Dave Short and the whole DPW team. Everybody was out there cleaning, and I'm sure all the first responders working extra hard that weekend. So it was just nice to see everybody back out and after the COVID years, and just, I don't know, it was a nice, it's always a nice scene in Utica. So that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Second District, Councilmember Robert Burmaster, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank everybody for coming out and expressing your opinions and your concern with the safety of Utica, what goes on in the city. It's important that the people get out and hear the voices, and I want to thank each and every one of you for coming here tonight and continue coming. Basically, that's all I have tonight, but thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Third District, Councilmember Friend, Celeste Friend, sorry.
On Monday night in Copernic Park, the Levitt Amp Series returned after having been rained out 2 weeks in a row. Not rained out, but they went to inside Munson 1 week, and then the following week had to make a split-minute decision to go into the Delta lobby. So this Monday night they were back in the park, which was great. I think that there are 5 concerts left, but my math might be a little bit off. I highly recommend anybody who hasn't been to those concerts to attend them. They're in Copernic Park, directly across from Fountain Elms on Genesee Street. Great free music, terrific, terrific crowd, terrific atmosphere, great food trucks. So it's the best thing about summertime in Utica, in at least my opinion, and I really recommend that everybody try to come out. Thank you.
Thank you. 5th District, Councilmember Venice Irvin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last Saturday, we had the first Hoops and Dreams event at Kimball Park since Patrick Johnson passed. And I think it went very well. I was out of town, so I missed most of it. But I think it went very well. We did have a couple incidents that did happen, but the police took care of that. We do have some other, I think he's going to have one more this summer. So we look forward to seeing that happen. And I would like to say some of the statements that Mr. Tufts made, those conversations are taking place in District 5 about a lot of the apartment buildings that are being built. So we have been talking about it and hashing that out, and it's in District 5 so far, and getting an understanding of why that's happening. But we also talked about the fact that a lot of homes that parents bought and worked hard for, even my father's house was lost to the city, and that was lost to him not by my family, but a lot of family members are losing their houses, you know, the taxes and stuff. And I tell people all the time, we're losing a lot of houses not because we can't keep them, it's because we're not doing what we're supposed to do to carry on the legacy of keeping our houses, and especially in the Cornhill area. So I don't blame anybody for that. I blame ourselves a little bit, but I understand what Mr. Tufts is saying about, you know, there's a lot of apartments, and they're going to be great apartments. That's all I can tell you. They're going to be very great apartments. Johnson Park is putting some in. Overston is creating new stuff. There's a lot of good things happening. Somebody drove by the houses over on Brinkerhoff Ave that they put in, and it's great. I mean, the houses are beautiful, but I'm not going to completely shut them down because we are having that conversation, and I think people are getting an understanding that it's not because of race, it's because of understanding and knowing how to budget and do those type of things. And I say that because when we had our money, if anybody remembers our money, and I think Brian Thomas remembers that, we offered people to pay people's rent back 6 weeks, and we would pay 3 weeks forward if they would go to budgeting classes. And a lot of people were people from different neighborhoods, and they refused to do the budgeting, so we didn't have anybody that took advantage of that. So it's a lot of problems with budgeting and understanding how to get stuff in the city and how to keep it. Thank you.
Thank you. 6th District, Councilman Joe Beatrice, you have the floor.
Yes, just very quickly, I'd like to thank the members of the Boilermaker Finish Line crew that I'm a proud member of. We set up everything. We work on Saturday, and on Sunday we're there at 4 in the morning. And it's a great organization and a great bunch of guys. And thanks to the Earl Reed and his brother for all the help and support that they give us. So I'm really glad that I'm a member of that. I've been doing it for 10 years, and very happy with that. And then I just want to remind you, on Monday, on the 24th, at the North Utica neighborhood, we have our monthly meeting at 6:30. So you guys are all welcome to come there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilman at Large and Minority Leader Mark Williamson, you have the floor.
I have nothing to pass today. Thank you.
Council at Large, Samantha Colosimo Testa, you have the floor.
Mr. President, I have nothing to
Thank
say,
you.
to say in my remarks and appeals. Thank you.
Council at Large, Frank DeBrango, and President Pro Tem, Frank DeBrango, you have the floor.
I'm all set, Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you. All right, I have nothing this evening. Just moving on to legislation. Here. Almost there. Just wanna make sure I don't screw anything up tonight. Proposed resolution number 1, sponsored by Councilmember Burmaster. Do we have a second?
Second.
This is a resolution calling for a public hearing on the sale of 935 to 937 Schuyler Street. The purchase price of the property is $750. It is to Edgar Avila. And the public hearing will be held on Wednesday, August 16th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Your votes in the public hearing.
Yay.
Thank you.
8 yeas adopted.
Proposed ordinance number 2 is also sponsored by Councilmember Burmaster. Would you like to place this in committee, Mr. Burmaster?
Yes, I will.
Is there a second? Okay, any opposed? The sale of 935 to 937 Schuyler Street has been placed in committee. The next resolution, which is sponsored by council members Miola and DeBrango. However, I believe there was a request for full council on this. This is a placement of an honorary street sign for Father Joseph Salerno on Barton Avenue. Be it further resolved that there shall be placed on the street at Barton Avenue and Genesee Street and Barton Avenue and Sunset Avenue an honorary sign declaring this street to be Father Salerno Way. Be it further resolved that this resolution be inscribed in the minutes of the Common Council of the council meeting held on July 19th, 2023. Your votes.
Yes.
8 yeas adopted.
The next resolution is resolution number 4. This is also going to be full council. It was sponsored by council member Colosimo Testa, but the full council, including council member Viola, would like to be on this. This is a proclamation honoring the life of Mr. Alfred L. LaSalle. Before I read this, I'd like to state to everyone that I became council president in 2016, and Mr. LaSalle was literally a fixture in this room at every single meeting. At times he told jokes. At times I had to rein him in and ask him to stop speaking. But he was always somebody who contributed in a way to this council that absolutely did make us think at times and make us laugh at others. So with that, I'd like to read this proclamation. Whereas Alfred L. LaSalle passed away on Saturday, June 10th, 2023 in New Hartford, New York at the age of 87, while under the care of hospice in New Hartford. And whereas Al was employed with Utica Drop Forge on March 23rd, 1957, Alfred was united in marriage with Joan Goringer, a loving and devoted union of 54 years until Joan's death in 2021. And whereas in 1961 he was appointed to the Utica Fire Department, retiring in 1996 after 35 years of dedicated service to the city of Utica. Hale also worked for a time with Dino's Sausage as a truck driver. He was a member and past master of the Faxton Masonic Lodge, number 697, F and AM in Utica, a member of the Utica Firefighters Retirees, and First United Methodist Church in New Hartford. And whereas Ale's favorite pastime was sitting on his front porch visiting with neighbors and also attending and speaking at many Utica Common Council meetings over the years, and whereas Ale, with his good heart, never forgot to thank the public safety employees for their service and would occasionally bring a rose or small gift to the city clerk, whether it be a piece of candy or a flashlight, it would always make you smile. And whereas, if you knew Ale, you knew he loved his country, and he would always end his public comments with God bless you and God bless America. Be it resolved that the Common Council does hereby pay respect to the memory of Alfred L. LaSalle for his many contributions during his lifetime to the city of Utica. Be it further ordained that this tribute will forever be a part of the minutes of a meeting of the Utica Common Council held on the 19th day of July, 2023.
I just want to say one thing. I think he brought me more roses than the city clerk over the years. With that said, I hope he's resting well in God's country. Thank you.
Your votes, please.
Yes.
8 yeas adopted.
Thank you. Proposed resolution number 5 is a Commissioner of Deeds sponsored by Miola and Williamson, majority and minority leader. Be it resolved that the Common Council does hereby approve the following person eligible for appointment to Commissioner of Deeds in and for the city of Utica, New York within the term ending December 31st, 2024. Is this moved by Williamson?
Yes.
I'll second.
Okay, second is Colosimo Testa. This Commissioner of Deeds is for John Garfield. Your votes.
Yes.
8 yeas adopted.
Is that weird? Okay, thank you. Proposed resolution number 6, again sponsored by minority and majority leader. Is there a motion to move this?
Yep.
Okay, we have Petrus and Williamson. Be it resolved that the Common Council does hereby approve the following person eligible for appointment to the Commissioner of Deeds in and for the city of Utica, New York within the term ending December 31st, 2024. This is Dennis Bova. Your votes. Councilman DeBrango.
Yes.
Thank you.
8 yeas adopted.
Proposed resolution number 7. Again, this needs a motion to move. Williamson.
Second.
Second is Beatrice. This is authorizing the sale of wine and beer to Munson and Woodland Farm Brewery. Be it resolved that permission to sell beer and wine and exemption from the provisions of section 215.43 subdivisions C 1, 2, and 3 regarding open containers of alcoholic beverages is granted to Munson/Woodland Farm Brewery. Name of the event is 2023 Summer Arts Festival. The date of the event is Sunday, July 29th, 2023, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Location of the event is Munson, 310 Genesee Street, 13502. Your votes.
Yes.
8 yeas adopted.
Thank you. This is a good one to see. Main Street grant for Midtown Utica Community Center. Resolution number 8. Someone like to move this?
I'll
Yep.
make the I'll second.
Okay, first is Williamson, second, Colosimo Testa.
This is full council to it.
Yes.
Okay, full council, thank you. I'm going to summarize this. It was read during the caucus. Whereas the Midtown Utica Community Center project is requesting up to $500,000 in funding from NYMS, with a required $125,000 match being provided by private funds, and whereas a formal resolution supporting the Midtown Utica Community Center's 2023 CFA is required for the proposed NYMS program. Be it resolved that the Common Council of the City of Utica does hereby approve and endorse the submission of a grant request by the MUC, Midtown Utica Community Center, Incorporated, under the 2023 Consolidated Funding Application. Your votes.
Yes.
8 yeas adopted.
Very much. The next piece is ordinance number 9. This is the ordinance on the sale of property sold at public auction, June 28th, 2023, and approved by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment on July 12th, 2023. I will summarize the properties. It was Wetmore Street, Dawes Avenue, 465 Euclid Road, 1813 Monroe Street, 101 Woodlawn Ave, 2008 Sunset Avenue, 1012 Kellogg, 511 Deerwood, and Tilden Avenue, which is a lot 331.30-2-17. Be it ordained that pursuant to Utica City Charter 8.031, establishing the procedure for the sale of real property acquired for unpaid taxes, the Common Council does hereby approve the sale of the following properties, as specified in this ordinance. Your votes.
Yes.
8 yeas adopted.
The next piece is ordinance number 10. Ordinance waiving residency requirement for the position of junior engineer.
Make a motion. Second.
Okay? I'm just going to read the be it ordained. Now be it ordained that the Common Council of the City of Utica does hereby relieve Sebastian Campuzano of the applicable residency requirements of the Utica City Charter. Further ordained, this waiver applies to this individual in this position only and will not be applicable to any future applicants for the position unless otherwise determined by the ordinance of the Common Council. Your votes, unless there's anything. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
8 yeas adopted.
Ordinance 11 is another ordinance waiving residency requirement for the position of lineman in this case.
Make a motion. Second.
Okay. Now be it ordained that the Common Council of the City of Utica does hereby relieve Brad Copey of the applicable residency requirements of the Utica City Charter. Further ordained, this waiver applies to this individual in this position only and will not be applicable to any future applicants for the position unless otherwise determined by the ordinance of the Common Council. Your votes.
Yes.
Call. He said, oh, Councilman Williamson. Oh, you're reading it or are you voting?
Oh,
Yeah. No?
8 yeas adopted.
Thank you. Thought he was reading something. All right. Hang on, I'm weeding through the memos here. Hang on a second. Okay. Next piece is ordinance number 12, ordinance amending section 215.74, avoidable alarm charges of the Utica City Code of Ordinances. You can't put anything in committee in the pre-meeting conference. Would you like to put it in committee now?
I wanted it in committee.
So, is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to commit, please, Mr. President.
Excellent. Is there a second?
Second?
Is anyone opposed to placing this in committee? Okay, it's in committee. Thank you. Next piece is more URA properties. This is a call for a public hearing on 1243 and 1245 Lincoln Avenue. Councilman Burmaster has moved this. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. This is for a sum of $500, and this is from the URA, and selling this to Daniel Noen. The public hearing, if passed, will be held on Wednesday, August 16th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Your votes.
Yes.
Thank you.
8 yeas adopted.
Apologize, I lost my train of thought there for a moment. The next piece is the ordinance number 14, which is the sale of 1243 and 1245.
Motion to commit, please, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Is there a second? Okay, Burmaster's a second. Any opposed to placing that in committee? Sale of that property is in committee. Next piece this evening is ordinance number 15. This is sponsored by Councilmember Aiello. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Be it ordained that section 216-356 Schedule A one-way streets be amended as follows. Whitesboro Street westbound from West Saratoga Street to Lenox Ave, adopted 7/19/2023. Be it further ordained the proper signage be erected / removed where necessary. Your votes.
Yes.
Thank you.
8 yeas adopted.
Proposed ordinance number 16, sponsored by Councilmember Aiello. Who's the second? Thank you. Amendment to Schedule D, yield signs. Do you have a question?
Yeah, two questions. Number one, why did this come from law and not UPD?
UPD did confirm it, just I prepared the legislation.
It's fine.
Our
Yeah.
traffic unit did that.
Yeah.
Next time, just so that we know, just put law UPD.
Okay.
So that
Okay.
we know, because technically by our way of
That's fine.
city code, it has to go through
Okay.
police first. Thank you.
Okay. So you confirmed this went through traffic? Yeah, thank you. Be it ordained that section 216-359 Schedule D yield signs be amended as follows. Whitesboro Street and Columbia Street, north side of Whitesboro Street, adopted 7/19/2023. Be it further ordained proper signage be erected, removed where necessary. Your votes.
Yes.
8 yeas adopted.
All right. Next piece is ordinance number 17, sponsored by Councilmember Aiello. Is there a second?
Friend?
Councilperson Friend. Be it ordained that section 216-358 Schedule C intersections where stops required be amended to read as follows. Whitesboro Street and Seneca Street, four-way stop at each intersection. Be it further ordained that the proper signage be erected where necessary. Your votes.
Yes.
Thank you. You guys got something wrong over there? Councilperson Friend? There we go. Thought it was Mark again, sorry. You're good. Call it.
No.
Oh,
Sam.
wait, Sam.
Sam.
Classimo Testa, vote please. Yes, thank you. You guys are turning your microphones on and off.
8 yeas adopted.
Thank you. Proposed ordinance number 8, Councilmember Aiello is the sponsor. Is there a second? Burmaster, thank you. Intersections where stops required. Be it ordained that section 216-358 Schedule C intersections where stops required be amended to read as follows. Whitesboro Street and Broadway, northeast and southwest corners of Whitesboro Street, Broadway and Whitesboro Street, southeast corner of Broadway. Be it further ordained that the proper signage be erected where necessary. Your votes.
Yes.
7 and 8, you guys wanna vote? Checking it out?
I just said, proposed.
No, you're fine, you're
proposed
reading it.
Ordinance number 18, not 8.
18.
I said
Said
18.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
I
I'm sorry,
know.
I misheard you. I apologize.
Trying to speak quickly.
I apologize, I'm sorry.
Williamson.
It's been a long night.
Councilman Williamson?
8 yeas adopted.
All right. The next piece is also sponsored by Councilmember Aiello. Is ordinance number 19. Thank you. Intersections where stops are required. Be it ordained that section 216.358, Schedule C, intersections where stops required, be amended to read as follows. Whitesboro Street in Auditorium Drive, northeast and southwest corners of Whitesboro Street, Auditorium Drive, and Whitesboro Street, southeast corner of Auditorium Drive. Be it further ordained that the proper signage be erected where necessary. Your votes. I think we need one more. Bettis. Thank you. You'll vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
8 yeas adopted.
Proposed ordinance 20, Councilmember Aiello. Speed limits generally. It's an interesting title. Be it ordained that section 216.136B, speed limits generally, the maximum speed limit for the city streets set forth below be amended to read as follows. Whitesboro Street from Seneca Street to Potter Avenue, maximum speed of 25 miles per hour. Be it further ordained that proper signage be erected where necessary. Your votes.
Mr. President, after I thought about this, we have specific speed limits in our ordinance now. They went from 15 to 20 to 25 to 30. It has to be amended in the ordinance now because this is what happened prior. Nobody knew the speed limit. It can't be generally. It has to be specific in the amendment to the city code of the speed. If not, it's got to be amended in the ordinance of the title.
It's in the correct portion of that ordinance.
Okay, so if we go
As
back.
it's now written.
Right, but if we go back to look at it and we look at the title, it can't be generally. It's got to be a specific.
The title is generally.
Right, but it can't be.
It's subsection B, so if you just wanna get rid of it, then just.
Or just make an amendment.
Section 2-16-1.
We were trying to be
136B, and
pretty
remove speed
specific.
limits generally.
We were trying to be pretty specific when we passed the ordinances now, so if we went to go back and look, we would know what we were looking
I'm gonna
at.
take back the floor for just a moment.
Thank you.
This is a title of a section in the code, which is named speed limits generally. Within that piece of the city code, specific speed limits are specified. Before we move on, how would you like us to change this if someone would like to amend this on the floor?
If you're concerned about knowing where it is, I mean, it's very clear that you're referring to subsection B of that. There's 2 bullets, actually there's.
Just make an amendment to the title. So
Yeah,
that
there's
we go
2.
Look it up in the code.
Right.
We know where we're going, that's it. It's all
So,
easy.
if
I
you
would
have
just
it-
scratch after it says section 2-16-136B, scratch speed limits generally, maximum speed, anything that's underlined right there.
All right,
Scratch that
now,
word.
who moved this?
I did.
All right, would you like to,
I'd like to make a motion to amend on the floor,
thank you.
so that we're specific to the code and the actual title, so that when we're looking it up on the legislation passed, we know where we're going with it.
I would like to
We
ask
didn't
you a
just go through
favor.
that whole-
I would like to ask you a favor. Can you phrase that
I don't know what
amendment?
section it is. I don't.
Just make a motion, no, can you please, if you'd like, I'll offer a motion.
I would offer-
Can you please make a motion to strike from this piece of legislation, speed limits generally, the maximum speed limit of the, can you make that motion,
I'd
please?
like to make a motion to strike speed limits generally.
The rest of it.
I don't have it in front of me.
The piece? You don't have this piece?
No, I don't.
Oh.
I just put it back into.
Check.
Thank
Thank you.
Sorry, thank you. Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to strike speed limits generally and to add speed limits generally, maximum speed, section, I guess, speed limits generally, section, I don't, this is
No.
not how we would normally do it.
Leave the section, yeah, thank you.
Okay, speed limits, section 2-16-136B.
So you would like to amend it to read only that, so make a motion to strike everything that's underlined. You follow? And then this legislation refers to this
Maximum
section.
speed of 25 miles per hour. Somebody's gotta read it because I don't know what it says in the code. I mean, why is it, we never put speed limits generally. There were specifics,
No, there are. The section title of that
portion of the code.
The speed limit is in general.
general.
Right, but didn't we make it specific as amended inside the code? I got it.
We did.
And no, this is fine, let's work it out. We're changing the speed limit, so it's okay.
Oh, okay, okay,
And then it
perfect,
says
okay, speed limits.
Subsection A.
I got it now. All right, speed limits generally, amending section 2-16-136. Section B, that's what the title should say. And then the rest of it, be it ordained, Whitesboro Street from Seneca Street to Potter Street, or to Potter Avenue, maximum speed of 25 miles per
So,
hour.
which piece are you striking?
So I'm gonna amend the title that said speed limits generally. So it's gonna now say, speed limits generally, amended section 2-16-136B.
Is that correct?
As
As she read it into the record?
As amended, yes.
As amended as follows.
As amended as follows, Whitesboro Street from Seneca Street to Potter Ave, maximum speed of 25 miles per hour.
Whatever's underlined there.
It's being,
Yes.
yep.
Okay. Is the council clear on the motion? to
I
amend?
apologize, guys, we amended it, and I wanna make sure that we're
I'm
not
aware.
going back
That's
and
fine.
forth to what we just went through the whole entire section of the city.
Is
code
the
for speed
council
limits.
clear on the amendment?
I was very confused.
Is there a second to the amendment?
Second.
Any opposed to this amendment? It's amended. Your votes, please.
Sorry.
It's okay. And attention to detail. That was a yes for me.
8 yeas adopted.
Okay. We have one more piece this evening. I'm gonna read it really slow. No, I'm kidding.
I'll be pulling something from committee.
Okay, excellent. This piece is sponsored by Councilmember Aiello. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. It's resolution number 21. This is a resolution approving and endorsing Munson, formerly Munson Williams Proctor Arts Institute, in its application to New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation Parks Program for visitor improvements and an accessible entry to Munson's Museum of Art. Whereas the grant application requires the applicant obtain the approval and endorsement of the governing body of the municipality in which the project will be located. Now therefore be it resolved that the Common Council of Utica, New York approves and endorses the 2023 New York Parks Program grant application for assistance prepared and to be submitted by Munson. Your votes. Okay, thank
8
you.
yeas adopted.
Councilperson Friend, I believe you would like the floor.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to pull from committee proposed ordinance number 2, bond ordinance dated June 7th, 2023, please, Mr. President.
What's number 3?
That's it?
Number 3.
Proposed ordinance number 3.
Is that what I said?
The IT.
Oh.
That's
I
okay.
apologize.
All right, let me pull it out here.
Proposed ordinance number 3, dated 6/7/2023.
And thank you, by the way, for pulling this out. I feel like I don't have the front page of it, though. Yeah, I don't have the front page. Can I have the front page, please? Thank you. All right, the piece that Councilperson Friend is referring to is the bond ordinance authorizing the issuance of $250,000 of serial bonds of the city of Utica, Oneida County, New York, to finance the cost of the purchase of computer equipment. Is there a second to pull this out of committee? Thank you. Any
Mr. President, just for clarification, I was just talking to my colleague on the left.
Is this regarding the current motion?
Yes, it is.
So then hang on one
Okay,
moment.
yeah, I appreciate that, thank you.
Any opposed to pulling this from committee? Okay. You have something.
So I
regarding
just
this.
want to clarify, could ARPA funding that's left over be spent on this, or was this specific to ARPA funding that couldn't be spent on this? I didn't hear that earlier, and we just want to make sure that's clear on whether or not
Don't
we could.
know if that question, I mean, that's technically two exclusive events, right? That would be subject to how the controller's office and the administration would have structured this.
I mean, it just seems pretty crazy to go out for a $250,000 bond ordinance when we have a
So-
$300,000 contingency and, to have to borrow for that money on such a little amount. I just want to make sure that.
So I'm gonna, sure, I would like to speak to this, because I did read in detail the things that are being purchased. Many of the switches and routers in this building are past their end of their usable life. some of them aging out to 7 years. That affects our security, our ability to ensure not only TAC, radius, et cetera. There's multiple different security issues that we need to uphold. But I guess what I'm getting at is this is all necessary equipment. And if you wanted to ask if this could have been spent under ARPA funding, and that's a question that would have to be had outside the scope of voting on this legislation and prior to it. So that's all I have.
Can I have the floor, Mr. President?
This is an absolute necessary IT project for this building and the safety and security of the data that sits within this building on electronic devices. You have the floor.
I believe, my understanding is that originally, the budget director intended to include this with our big bond ordinance, and Mr. Mutolo wasn't able, for whatever reason, to get her enough of the details in advance, so that this was intended to be part of our large capital project. But came in too late to be included with that ordinance, so that's my understanding, of what the budget director said the first time this came to us.
I would concur. I mean, that's, all right, so if no one has anything else, it's on the floor for a vote. I'm going to read specific parts of this in summary. Where is the final piece? I'm looking for the be it further ordained. Very well, in any case. Whereas all conditions precedent to the financing of the capital project described below include compliance with the provision of the State Environmental Quality Review Act have been performed, and whereas it is now desired to authorize the financing of such capital project. Now therefore be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Utica, Oneida, New York as follows. Section 1, the City of Utica, Oneida, County, New York, the city is hereby authorized to undertake the purchase and installation of computer equipment, including firewalls, routers, network switches, and estimated maximum cost not to exceed $250,000. It is hereby determined that the period of probable usefulness of the aforesaid specific objects for the purposes is 5 years pursuant to paragraph 32 of section 11A of local finance law. The last section reads, this ordinance, which takes effect immediately, shall be published in full or summary form in the Observer Dispatch, the official newspaper, together with a notice of the city clerk in substantially the form provided in section 81 of the local finance law. Your votes.
Yes.
8 yeas adopted.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn, please.
Anyone? All right.